Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Pay the Bills post-game show presented by Picasso's Pizza. I did that clean this week. We're good. We've made it a couple minutes into here. Bills lose another primetime game back-to-back weeks, this time on Monday Night Football in Atlanta against the Falcons. And I've got a whole host. We brought in everybody tonight. We needed all the reinforcements for this. I'm guessing therapy session that's going to end up happening. Mike Bunt, Ajay Polsky, Alex Micah, Jake Micah here. Whew. I don't even know where to start. We talked about it. We basically had a podcast before this podcast actually started already. We just reached each other and just started complaining about the Bills, which is honestly, guys. So AJ, Alex, and Mike just met tonight, and honestly, the best way to meet is to just come in here and just start angrily yelling about the Bills and everything that just happened wrong tonight. Like, there's nothing more pure in my life than something like that. So I'm happy that you guys are here. But wow, let's start, Bunt. Let's start with you. Your reaction. I get you. Usually, I ask you guys the same question, so I won't ask you tomorrow. Immediate reaction when the game went final of what happened, and now I really get your immediate reaction. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to go? What was your biggest takeaway from this loss tonight?
Yeah, so it's not always a good thing when you get my instant reactions because I haven't had 24 hours to process and think about how I can frame it in a positive manner. But embarrassing, unacceptable, and a little bit scary for the future going forward. And here's the reason why. Normally when the Bills lose, they lose close games, and you can point to some stupid play and a heartbreaking loss where they can easily fix it, correct it, and not have it happen again. What's concerning about this loss today is there's so many things that Atlanta exposed with this team that I don't know if the Bills can just easily correct it in 1 week, which thank God they have the bye week. They have 2 weeks to correct it. So let's first off talk about the defense. They allowed 330 plus yards in one half of football. That's pretty scary. And the safeties are abysmal. I know Milano's out. I know Bernard went out, but the defense actually got better when Terrell Bernard got out. So when you're talking about the linebackers, they're horrible. Like, their linebacker play is horrible to where Shaq Thompson looks like the best linebacker on the team right now. The corners are toast almost every single time they play a legitimate receiver. We thought that was a Stephon Diggs show last week. This was a Drake London show. He just destroyed the Bills corners. I thought that Christian Benford was supposed to be an elite corner, and that's why they gave him the big money. But if you're not even going to have him on Drake London every time, and you're going to have Trey exposed to guys like that, then the corners and the secondary are absolute toast. And then you go into a game with some unfortunate luck with Daquan going out, where you have 3 defensive tackles, and one of them isn't your second-round pick defensive tackle due to injury. The other one isn't your third-round pick defensive tackle last year due to injury. And then the other one isn't your former top-end D tackle, Daquan Jones, because of injury. So you're playing with a practice squad defensive tackle, but not Zog, who's actually probably the one good practice squad call-up you have. You're playing with a fourth-round rookie who is looking like the best defensive tackle you have so far this year. And then Ed Oliver, who made some plays. You had some pressure at moments, but the defense was atrocious. You couldn't depend on them at any moment. And all that said, in the second half, they only allowed 3 points. They actually did their job when it mattered the most to let the offense have plenty of opportunities to get back into it. And that's where I'm going to just obliterate this team. I stood up for Joe Brady last week because I said we're going too hard on them. They had 30-plus points the first 3 weeks. They had 20 points last week. It's one bad game, 360-plus yards, good Patriots defense, forgivable. What did they say? We got too cute. We got to stop that. Well, then they do 3rd and 1 end-arounds to Elijah Moore when James Cook is averaging 5 yards a carry. And granted, the receiver issues are well documented. Josh Palmer getting hurt in this game definitely had an impact. No Dalton Kincaid, huge impact. But you know what happens when you're down these guys? You need to plan around it. And I know that they didn't know Josh Palmer was going to go down. But you're telling me this offense had no answers? They literally went from being like early in the game, pass heavy, like we're going to throw the ball around, we're going to take deep shots, we're going to try to make things happen all over the air, to literally trying to become the most conservative offense I have ever seen. And every time they did try to pass it, no protection at all. So here's my concern. This team on offense only does one thing well right now, and that's run the ball. To the point where they were running the ball well, even when Atlanta had heavy 8-man fronts. They were still running for 5 yards. Fans have been calling for the deep passes. Fans have been calling from the throw of the ball more with Josh Allen. That is the worst thing this team can do right now. AJ, you're right. Right now, it is a bottom 10 receiver unit. It's probably a bottom 3 receiver unit. But, like, let's be real.
I love it.
The importance of Josh Palmer and Dalton Kincaid. Because Kincaid gets open in the middle, which lets Shakir do things and then lets Palmer do things. But without those two guys, Keon Coleman can't do anything one-on-one. Elijah Moore showed that why he was a late post-draft signing. Tyrell Shavers showed why he's primarily a special teams player. And then you have nothing else in the passing game at all. And the offensive line is breaking down as a result because Atlanta's being able to send people because they're not afraid of anybody beating them in any matchup. And this is where my other problem lies. Okay, I get it. It's tough on Josh Allen when he doesn't have people open. It's tough on Josh Allen when he's getting pressured. He's an MVP quarterback. He's making poor decisions, and you can tell it's getting to him. He's getting antsy. And yes, 90% of quarterbacks, the same thing would happen. But the fourth down flip to James Cook, Ty Johnson, he had time. He could have rolled left and made an accurate throw. He rushed it and tried to do something stupid. Why are they not running Josh Allen? Like, you don't have any receivers, and you have only James Cook right now. Why are they not attempting anything in the run game with him? And I don't know if you guys have noticed him. He has not been as elusive this year. He is not escaping tackles in the pocket. Like, that's all of Josh Allen's game. Let's be real.
Yep.
The moment Josh Allen loses his elusiveness as a quarterback, he's no longer a top 3 quarterback in the league anymore. Like, he needs that elusiveness. And I'm not blaming this loss on him, and I'm going to be done in a minute. But you need answers. The offense had 3 or 4 opportunities to tie the game. And not once did he make the play that they needed. And I understand the weapons let him down. But he looked like he was forcing things. It didn't look like he was processing the game properly. And if you're Brandon Beane, get the guy a damn receiver. Like invest in one. Like,
he doesn't want to hear that.
Mike, say that again.
No, AJ, no, because you're gonna try to play like you won this.
No, I'm not. I like hearing it though. I do.
I've been calling for a first-round pick receiver for like 3 years now. I wanted Romo Dunze. I wanted Brian Thomas Jr. I wanted Neighbors. I wanted half the guys. And it's frustrating because I don't think this offense is going to magically get better unless they rely on the run more, or somehow Josh Palmer becomes a go-to threat and Kincaid can break down. There's a lot of issues, but the bye week comes up. They got to come up with some answers. This is a time where if you are looking to make a move, you got to explore it. You got to bring something in because Josh is getting frustrated and he's starting to make the mistakes that he made before he became who he is now. He's doing the dumb things. The dumb things come out when he presses. And this is not MVP Josh. This is 2019 Josh, 2020 Josh coming out, where he is not feeling right when he's back there.
Yeah. I do want to preface it with what, Mike said about, I do think that, Palmer was having, his kind of breakout moment, right? And I want to also say that, through 5 weeks, he was also very below average or below expectation, I should say, in terms of what, I expected from him in New England. He was absent when they probably needed him. And I think Dalton Kincaid, he's coming off a 100-yard game, right? He's looking like he's breaking out as well. So those two guys being out really does hurt, I think, Josh Allen and his confidence. And that's why I thought, again, you saw Josh Allen and Atlanta took full advantage of it. They were just set in the house, and they were daring the Bills wide receivers, daring them to win in man coverage. And it was like clockwork. And they continued to have success. I've never seen, and I'm kind of staying with the offense here, but I've never seen an offense have so much success on first and second down with the run, get to that third and short, and just have the inability to convert. It's a reoccurring theme with this Bills offense right now with Joe Brady, and Josh Allen's to blame too. I thought, like that play with Ty Johnson on that 4th and 2, at midfield, around midfield, he probably could have flicked that and turned his hips and made the throw. But it's just continuous blunders in these short yardage situations. Even the 2-point attempts that they've tried in that Baltimore game, they could not convert. So it's just the short yardage offense for this team right now. I don't know if they're overthinking it. I don't know if they don't realize they have a 250-pound quarterback and they have like scars from Josh Allen not being able to convert these 3rd and shorts against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know what it is, but you have a $48 million running back that you just signed that's averaging, like Mike said, 5 yards a carry. You have a quarterback that's 250-plus pounds and can, he's done all-world things with his legs when needed in big moments. And they just don't use it. They're doing these end arounds to Elijah Moore, who at this point is not even he's just not even worth not even worth it, but he's a guy that just I don't think really does much for this offense. And then Dawson Knox last week. So I think offensively, it's just very disappointing to see Josh Allen struggle. I don't think he's played to his potential, but I think with the way the offensive line's playing, the Connor McGovern injury hurt on that last drive when Alec Anderson went in. They brought an all-out blitz. They had a total miscommunication. You saw it really hurt them there. It forced a punt. So I think this Bills offense is just kind of not able to figure it out right now. And the only thing, like Mike said, that's working is the run game with James Cook. Defensively, terrible. Drake London looked like we were playing prime Mike Vick and Randy Moss out there. Like Penix was Mike Vick. Seriously, that's how it felt in that first half. And they are so lucky that Drake London stepped out of bounds on that play. That was terribly executed. And I made a joke on Twitter, like that was perfectly executed. That's exactly what the Bills wanted because they didn't want to force a field goal. But they got ultra lucky on that play, and it wasn't a 28-7 deficit going into half. So all in all, very disappointing. I thought Deion Walker played his ass off, quite frankly. I think he's looked really good, but we'll get to Bean and McDermott, but real quick, I think I'm finally ready to have that conversation about both of them. And I kind of blasted McDermott, not blasted him. I said I like him. I've defended McDermott for years. I really was high on him last year with what he did with that roster and the turnover and, trying to get underneath the cap with all the releases and losing a lot of key veterans. But it's just getting to a point now in my mind that I think this is the worst talented or the least talented roster since 2020. Or since 2019, excuse me. And I think Bean's at fault. I think McDermott's at fault. I think the injuries are really hurting them. And I am ready to have that conversation if the Bills have reached their max potential with these two, kind of running the show. And again, I want to say I like Bean. I think he's done a lot. He hit on Josh Allen. That's probably the biggest thing you can do as a general manager is hit on the quarterback. I think McDermott's had elite defenses before the last 2 years. I think he's done a really good job besides the playoffs, but it's just getting to a point where you're seeing these trends happen, right? Like last year, they lose to Baltimore on the road, and then they lose to Houston on the road in early October. And Josh Allen has his worst game of the season against Houston, and then they traded for Amari Cooper. The offense kind of figured itself out, but now we're in the same boat. And now you're second in the division to a New England team that, quite frankly, has a very easy schedule. And I'm not saying they can't lose, but Drake May's looking great. And I really like what they're doing over there. I think Vrabel's a great head coach. So it's not – I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots win the AFC East this year. And maybe that's me overreacting, and maybe that's me going crazy because maybe the Bills do rattle off and have a late run and beat New England down the stretch like they have in the years past. But it's just when you continuously do the same things over and over again and you lose to inferior teams when the 1 seed, you're a -1. Mike, what were they to be the 1 seed at one point?
At one point, they were -195, and they were like +180 to like win the AFC. Now, like after tonight, like Patriots might go down to like +225, and the Bills might be +200. Like they might be neck and neck for that AFC East after this.
Right, and that's the most frustrating part about this is they had like this was Joe Burrow was hurt, right? Bengals are done. Lamar They're 1-5. The Chiefs have already lost 3 games. Now they're finding their footing, and they're going to be totally fine with Rashee Rice coming back. And that matchup in 3 weeks is going to be very interesting. Rice. So I'm. It's very frustrating to see the Bills have everything in front of them, and just kind of lose to these inferior opponents. And now you're 4-2 and second in the AFC East, and that's NFL, man. It changes, very quickly. But Alex, I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, you and Bunt kind of touched about everything with like the offense and defense side of the ball. The biggest thing to me is they're just so undisciplined, and like out of a Bills team that we've never really under McDermott never really seen that before. Maybe like a couple games here or there where there's some crazy shit going on, but 28 penalties in the last 3 games is insane, and maybe some of them aren't like fully warranted, but they just seem like I don't want to say like lost the team. But they're just a mess, like all around. They can't stay on sides. There's a lot of false starts. They just like are grabbing like crazy on like the boundary. I don't know. And so obviously like that's shooting themselves in the foot. All 4 of those scoring drives that the Falcons had, there was a key penalty that kept them on the field. Right at the beginning of the game, even offsides on what was Bijan's fumble, which we never saw a replay of that. So was it really offsides or not? But then you have a pass interference on Trey White. You have another key offside penalty. What did you? What
I said? Mike Shope did say it was offside. From what he must have saw a replay. He did say it was offside.
Okay,
regardless.
But another offsides on Joey Bosa's sack that would have put them at like 2nd and 18 in their shadow of their own goalpost. It's just I don't know, just a mess all around. I don't know. You're talking about McDermott and being more especially than anything else, because McDermott's doing with what he can, I would say, with what this, with what this team is. But this is 2 draft classes in a row of 10 plus players that are just
who's
2 of them
who's doing anything.
2 like Deion Walker, who is probably your best defensive tackle, is a 4th rounder. We haven't seen what Harrison can do yet, so we can't say anything about him. But down the line, that 2024 class, it's pretty rough. I wanted to be a Keon truther and a Cole Bishop truther for a long time. That's looking worse and worse.
We're dead, bro. We're so dead.
I'll say this about that Bijan run. I don't think there's a single safety that's making that stop.
No.
Bijan is so strong. Bijan's so strong. And the fact that he was able to keep his balance and stay in bounds on that, that's just what like a top 3 running back in the league does. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's making that play. But the rest of the time, Cole Bishop, no, he's kind of like firing his son.
That's the only defense.
I don't think anybody's making that. But
I did say I told you. I told my girlfriend right after. I was like, as Bijan's like even with Cole Bishop, like there's no way he's getting Bijan on this, and I didn't even know it was Cole Bishop at the time. So I will second that Bijan, and that's the thing. But Mo, they let Bijan be special. They don't have answers to even try to stop a Bijan Robinson on that defense right now.
No, they don't. Except Deion Walker. 2 plays in a row.
Walker.
Two plays in a row, tackles for loss, sets up 3rd and 14. Then what's happened? Fucking just, 15, 16-yard pass to Drake London.
Who we also have to talk about?
158 yards.
We need to talk about Bobby Babbage now, too.
Bobby Babbage.
Let's be real.
I said Joe Brady is a war criminal after the Elijah Moore handoff.
The downfall. We got to talk about Brady, too. But, the downfall of the Bills' defense has correlated with Bobby Babbage taking over. And remember how we used to be so upset with Leslie Frazier? Oh my God, our 3rd-ranked defense that allows 18 points a game that just doesn't show up in the playoffs. At least they showed up for 90% of the season. This defense don't show up at all. And what was the one good thing the Bills defense used to do? Create takeaways. What does this defense do? They don't do shit. They don't do anything.
A defense that lives on turnovers.
What do they do?
Is not a real
good
defense.
What do they do? They give extensions to guys that end up doing nothing that are going to be the core piece. Honestly, we talk about – this is what I'm concerned about. We talk about, are they ever going to win one with Josh Allen? And the answer is if they can get hot in the playoffs, which still remains true. They're 4-2. We're going to overreact. But, the fact of it is they've done this, 5 years in a row where they got off to, a poor October, and they always respond by, getting hot at some point. They end every season on a 4-game winning streak outside of games week 7, week 18 that don't matter. But let's be real. at some point, like Sean McDermott probably has to look at Bobby Babbitt and be like, dude, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, we suck. Like, he's like, I've never had a defense this bad before. Like, what are you doing? And like, the scary part is it's with the players that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott identified as their core guys of the future. So like, how do you
both of them?
Like, so how do you improve this? Like, you don't have the money to make massive moves, and you just identified these guys as the difference. Like, I will say this too. The ironic part when you allow 170 plus rushing yards to like one guy is that the defensive line might actually be the best part of the Bills right now, which just tells you how bad it is.
Agreed.
Behind them. And that's the concerning thing. Like, the Bills actually got pressure today, but like, even when they do get pressure, the one play with Trey and Williams, a complete breakdown, and there's a receiver not within 15 yards. Like, my God, I don't think I've seen a Bills receiver that open in like the last like year and a half. Like, it's. I'm just.
By the way, Mike, the Falcons wide receivers tonight, besides Drake London, Casey Washington, Kaderil Hodge, Jamal Agnew, and former Bills legend David Sills V.
Dude, I don't even know.
They couldn't stop him. They cannot stop him.
I don't even know who half those players are. I'm partially joking, partially.
I don't either.
The point of it is, like, you had one guy you needed to slow down. And, like, you didn't even come close to it. Like, this is, like, the concerning thing. I do agree with you, Alex, on a lot of things. I think as a head coach, you have to deal with the players you have. And I do think defensively, this is the weakest group of talent the Bills have had during the McDermott era. Now, I do think they have guys with talent. When they got the extensions this offseason with Rousseau, Benford, and Bernard, I do think all of those guys were deserving of extensions. I do think all of those guys have talent. My biggest concern is I don't know if the extensions matched up to what their true value is. And I don't know if continuing doing this nickel-based approach where what you've been doing the last 5 years is the right way to be going forward. It was ahead of its time. Now I feel like it's getting a little bit behind its time in some aspects, at least with like the Bills have gotten figured out. And what really is evident is that Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer really carried the Bills defense for a long period of time, which helped everybody in front of them. And now that you have, like, they don't even need great safeties. They just need adequate safeties. Rapp and Cole Bishop are the worst safety tandem I think I have ever seen, like, watching Bills football. Like, they are horrible. They are atrocious. And then when you double it down with small linebackers that are injury prone, like we talk about, like, Josh Norris being injury prone on the Sabres, but we never talk about enough about Bernard and Milano. They're undersized linebackers. That's what the Bills go for. We always talk about
who are they covering either out when they've been out there
that's
this
what I'm
year
saying. Like, the Bills have an archetype at linebacker. It's small, undersized, speedy guys. And then we wonder, why is Balin Spector always hurt? Why is Terrell Bernard always hurt? Why is Matt Milano always hurt? Because they like these undersized guys that can be aggressive and have that speed behind them, but they're never reliable. You can't count on them. And if the secondary is going to be the way it is now, like, it's just they can't stop anything. Like, the numbers say the Bills are good against the pass. The only reason why the numbers show the Bills are good against the pass is because teams are running for like 150 plus yards a game against them. They don't need to pass the ball.
And they played Justin Fields.
3rd and 13, it feels like the Bills are allowing it or getting flagged for pass interference or illegal contact or defensive holding anyway. So, like, how many times on 3rd and 13 are you like, oh shit, like it goes incomplete. It goes incomplete. You're like, and then 2 seconds later, flag, defensive holding, and you're like, oh, those refs, like, god damn them, they're calling it 3 seconds after play. And then you watch it, and the guys, like, our corners are like mugging them, like we're literally like pulling their entire jersey. The only thing I would ask is, like, and they eventually started calling some on Atlanta, is if you're going to call that shit on the Bills, please call it on the Falcons too. Like, the one non-defensive pass interference on Coleman was kind of a joke, but then they kind of made up for it with a couple defensive holdings later. But man, like, I don't think there's an answer for this defense. I think your only prayer of this defense getting better, and I was way off. Like, I projected them to be like top, I think, 5 to 7 this year. So, like, holy shit, I was bad on that.
Defensive regression. Thank you.
But I'll give you credit. Yeah, I was right last year. I was wrong this year. I got a 50% hit rate. I'll take that. My concern with this defense is I think there's only one way it gets better, and it's not going to be on the back end. It's when Michael Hoyt comes back and Ogunjobi comes back, they need to generate enough pass rush to where they start connecting, and it leads to more sacks. It can't just be pass rush win rate, because we've seen, even if they get close to the quarterback to impact the throw, the corners and safeties and linebackers aren't good enough in coverage to make a fucking difference.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't they great? Weren't they really highly thought of in pass rush win rate last year too? Like they were like at the top of that.
This year is far and away the best that they've actually
had. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking like the numbers show like they are way ahead of where they've been in recent years in terms of pass rush win rate. It's like it's a high percent.
They were actually bad, right? I thought they were really bad last year.
I
thought they still had some stats last year, but maybe it was early or whatever.
Their pass rush win rate right now is actually a phenomenal number. Like if you looked around the league, you would say you want a pass rush win rate where the Bills are, and their sack totals aren't horrendous. They're not good, but it just shows you how bad they are on the back end of this defense. This is the worst secondary Sean McDermott has ever had. And honestly, this linebacker duo with Milano being older and Bernard not living up to what people believe he should be, it's the worst group he's ever had. And what do Bills defenses primarily get built on since McDermott's been here? Great secondary, explosive linebackers. If you're going to have an awful secondary, non-explosive linebackers, this defense is toast. And the only way they can pray it gets better is if Hoyt can get them enough pressure. Ogunjobi can like fill some holes in the middle enough to where they increase that pass rush even more. They get to the quarterback a bit more, and then that helps the back end. Because this secondary, AJ, give you credit, I was wrong again. See, I admit it. You say I never admit this shit in the group text, but I do.
I had a pretty good feeling.
The secondary has been awful, and it's just frustrating because like, what are we going to even talk about right now that is good about this team? There's only one thing, James Cook. That's why I said there's no excuses for anybody on the roster. And like I got a DM from somebody after this game, and they're like, you know what the conversation all week is going to be? It's going to be on two things. It's going to be on how bad the defense was, rightfully so, and then it's going to be on how no receivers are getting separation for Josh Allen. The fact of it is, like, if you're expecting like Elijah Moore, Tyrell Shavers, and Keon Coleman and Dawson Knox to get separation, I don't know what to tell you. You're just a naive, stupid person. Like, once I found out Kincaid was out and Palmer was out, I knew that game was going to be the way it was. You got to find ways to adapt. And this offense, it looks pretty one-dimensional at this point. And let's be real, it was one-dimensional last year too. They struggled to throw the ball for long stretches last year. They were a run-first team. We just like to act like Josh Allen had the best season since sliced bread last year. He had an efficient season. Josh hasn't put up Josh Allen numbers, like really, really good Josh Allen numbers since 2022. Because in 2023, he had 18 interceptions. 2024, he didn't throw for 4,000 yards, and it was more efficiency-based. And so far this year, the numbers aren't even close to being there. So if we're going to be real, the numbers haven't been there in 3 years.
He won an MVP, dude.
I know. He won an MVP. He won an MVP.
He had some 4,000 yards passing, though. I mean, it's true.
Josh Allen's MVP last year was
28 touchdown passes, sub 4,000 yards. So it was well-balanced offense. It wasn't because Josh was lighting up the air.
Yeah, like he had a million touchdowns. But like, let's be real. We always criticize Ravens fans because we're like, all Lamar Jackson does is run, and then guys are wide open, and he has Derrick Henry to hand the ball off. Like, describe the Bills offense to me right now. It's all Josh Allen does is run. He has James Cook to hand the ball off, and then, well, he doesn't have the guys running wide open. But the point of it being, like Lamar Jackson won the MVP, what was it, 3 years ago, 2 years ago? 2 years ago. And it was the Lamar Jackson Baltimore Ravens charity MVP donated by the NFL because he had a good winning record during a pretty average season. If we're being real, Josh Allen didn't have an amazing statistical season last year. He threw his normal completion percentage,
41 touchdowns and what?
But AJ, here's the problem. You're acting like I'm talking by Josh Allen standards. I'm not talking by like the rest of the league. Like Josh Allen in his sleep is going to put up better numbers than 95% of the quarterbacks in the NFL. But ask yourself this. When Patrick Mahomes is throwing for 25 touchdowns and like 14 interceptions in a season, who do you trust more in the biggest moment of the biggest game? When Patrick Mahomes had nobody last year, when he had nobody the year before, when we've been talking, AJ, about how his offense averaged 22.5 points last year, how they averaged 21.6 points the year before. When Patrick Mahomes has nobody, you know what he does? He takes them to the Super Bowl.
Well, he also, that speaks to their defense.
He has a defense, yes. But early in his career, Patrick Mahomes had defenses that were ranked the 18th and 19th in like the NFL. Like he had bottom 12 defenses to start.
He had 2 Hall of Fame receivers to throw to.
You know what? And that part of it comes down to it with that. It jumps off of that with me too. And you brought it up with the Bean conversation of it all. Is what really bothers me about this team. What's that?
It's Brandon Bean is letting down the team. But as long as it's this way,
and Sean McDermott, he has as much say in the draft picks
but
as the side of the ball.
Yeah, that's true.
But Josh has to carry this team. What did we say last week? Josh has to be perfect right now. And it's an unrealistic expectation for a quarterback. But when Josh is not perfect, this team is going to lose football games. And this is why I go back to this all the time. And fans call me out and they say I'm a hater. I love Josh Allen. He's the best quarterback the Bills have ever had. But do we remember why the Bills went to the complementary football approach in the first place? It's because Josh was throwing a million interceptions and they were 6-6, 12 games into the 2023 season. And then when they went to a run-based approach, they won their next 5 games. They go to the playoff. And then last year they do the run-based approach. They go 13-4. And for the first 3 games of this year, they had a run-based approach. And then suddenly after everybody is calling them out for not going deep and not throwing the ball enough, they decide, I'm going to try to start opening things up. And when has everything started going to shit? When they decided that throwing the ball was more important than running the ball. You don't have enough skilled players to just open it up. This is not the 2020 Buffalo Bills. This is not the 2021 Buffalo Bills. This is not the 2022 Buffalo Bills. Stephon Diggs is not coming out of that locker room door for the Bills anytime soon. And as long as Keon Coleman is your number 1 receiver, Khalil Shakir is your slot, and that you have Josh Palmer as your number 3, they're suddenly not going to light it up for 300 passing yards a game. So they have one option: run the fucking ball. And if they don't run the ball effectively on a game-by-game basis, they're going to lose some of these games because they are not good enough in the passing game. And for any fan that thinks, oh, they need to throw the ball more, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Right now, Josh Allen is a game manager at quarterback. And if the only way that's going to change and he's not going to be the game manager is if they start him running the goddamn ball. If this Bills team wants to have the most effective offense they want to be, they need to start treating Josh Allen like Cam Newton when he was in Carolina. The reason why they won't do that, because it ended Cam Newton's career 5 years before it should have. But if you want this offense to be the most productive it can, you need to run Josh about 5 to 7 times a game. And until they do that, this offense is going to suck. Because there is no other answers on the team. And they don't have the salary cap to go out to get a premier number 1 receiver. And everybody's always like, well, why don't they get more speed? They got Elijah fucking Moore and Curtis Samuel. Those guys run 4.35s, 4.4s. It's not a speed problem. It's how defenses defend the Bills. They don't have the right collection to take advantage of it. So until the Bills decide to run Josh more, until they decide to basically force teams to put 8 men in the box, nothing is going to change. The Bills have to basically run the ball, run it again. And that's the only way it's going to change.
That's it. A lot of it comes back to bring it back to what I was going to say with Bean and what we were talking about with everything there is that. And you just brought it up with the Cam Newton thing too, right? Like Cam Newton, they're trying to avoid him being Cam Newton because they are worried about them not being able to extend this Super Bowl window as long as they can with Josh Allen. And how much has Brandon Bean said, oh, we want to be knocking on the door every year. We want to be really good every year. We want to be sure, we want to have a chance and then hope we get through there, right? And we talked about the build of this team and the roster. It's like, oh my gosh, this is such a great deep roster. There's not like before the season, like there's not really a whole, maybe safeties, but everything's sure. They got locked in their guys at every position. The line's solid. The wide receiver, everybody eats. You got a star running back. The defense will be able to pick it up. Scheme will pick it up. D-line will be good. XYZ, whatever. they did talk about the difference between the Ravens and the Bills last year, and I know the Bills beat them in the playoffs and whatever else, but the Chiefs, anyone else, all pro level talent, Jimmys and Joes. Sometimes football is about Jimmys and Joes, even in the NFL. Sometimes it's just about having some dogs that can go out there and make a dynamic play. And when you can build the most perfectly constructed roster that you think of on paper. But as we've seen here, there is no margin for error for anybody to either slip up and mess up on this defense, and honestly in this receiving core or on the offensive line. And if there's an injury, you don't have a guy behind there who's pushed any of these players and who have enough promise to do anything. There is a major, it's a philosophical difference that I can't get over in my head with how the Bills have built this team, that you have to have a certain level of blue chip talent, a certain level of elite talent to really break through. Because sometimes in football, it doesn't matter what your scheme is. It doesn't matter what the situation of the game is. It doesn't matter that the other team's been whipping your ass all game. You don't have momentum, whatever else. Sometimes it's just a dog, a premier athlete going out there and making a big play or 2 plays or even 3 plays down a stretch. And who do the Bills have on this team right now to match up with that? Even across a team from the Falcons, who we think are average at best, there's more blue chippers on the Falcons roster than the Bills. You want to talk about Robinson? You want to talk about London? You got Jesse Bates on that. Like, there's 3 right there. The Bills don't have anybody. I would have said Christian Benford maybe before the year. AJ Terrell too. I would have said Benford before the year. You can't say that anymore. And
Xavier Watts is the biggest.
Xavier Watts, rookie.
Yeah.
There we go.
Like the Bills should have drafted. Yes,
the Bills have.
Can I
2
say
dogs.
one thing though? Someone has a good point.
The Bills have
Go
Allen
ahead,
and
Jake.
Cook.
Go ahead, Jake.
Sorry, the Bills have 2 dogs. It's Allen and Cook, and then they have a former dog in Joey Bosa. Like those are the 3 that they have on the team, and that's it. But like, here's the thing that people have to. This is the problem, and we have the same goddamn conversation every year. Not you, but like Bills Mafia as a whole. If you want to get fucking dogs, you have to trade something valuable to get one. So you don't get dogs for free. They're expensive. You want a corgi, you spend over $1,000. You want a dog that's like the Queen's dog, you're going to spend more. You want a little mutt, you could take one from almost anybody you want. But if you want a good dog, you got to put money into it. And here, what do we always say? Defensive line isn't good enough. They don't get guys that actually take down the quarterback. Well, you know what? Maybe you should try trading into the top 10 to get a blue chip one when you have an opportunity. But they don't. We talk about receiver. Like, you need a blue chip receiver. Maybe you should try to trade into the top 15 to get one. But they don't. And the reason they don't is their philosophy is that we have an MVP quarterback. He's going to elevate everybody around him, and that will be economical and analytically smart with how we spend to the cap. And then our scheme and our development will do the rest because we have a good culture. And that works most of the time as far as winning in the regular season, but it doesn't work in terms of winning a Super Bowl. The teams that win the Super Bowl have those dogs. Philadelphia, their defensive line, full of them.
Yep.
Kansas City, Chris Jones. You had Tyreek Hill. You had Kelsey. You had Mahomes. Like, dogs on that team. Even the Rams, they had Von Miller before he tore his ACL. Like, all of these teams that win the Super Bowl have those guys. And Brandon Beane takes a safe approach. He did it early in his career. He took aggressive stabs early in his career, and that led to turning around the team. But you look at these draft classes, like, yes, it's bad luck that Harrison got hurt. But your second-round pick, TJ Sanders, is a non-factor in an important year. Your third-round pick can't even see the goddamn field. Yes, Deion Walker, that's a nice hit. And Jackson Hawes, that's nice. But you're talking about limited 4th, 5th-round picks.
Where, guys, come on,
like,
man.
Hopefully they hit. And then you're talking last year, like Cole Bishop in the 2nd round. And you're talking about Keon Coleman in the 2nd round. I need dogs, and they just don't take.
I need dogs.
And like, this is the
That's
problem.
the thing, Mike. Let me.
I'm almost done at this point. Like, okay. Literally almost done.
Okay.
This is my problem. Everybody says, why don't they get a premier receiver? The way they're going to get a premier receiver isn't trading for A.J. Brown. It's getting that guy that's a can't-miss prospect in the 1st round, getting them under a rookie contract that's affordable to where you can have the rest of your salary cap properly. Everybody says, get a Stephon Diggs. Well, you know what? We had a Stephon Diggs, and we know how that turned out with the Bills offense as well. So, like, Beane has been risk averse when it comes to spending big money for those blue chip guys. His favorite thing lately has been draft, develop, and then take a chance on a 30-year-old that might have one more year of high production and hope that Von Miller plays like 29-year-old Von Miller. Hope Joey Bosa plays like 24-year-old Joey Bosa. Hope Leonard Floyd plays like 26-year-old Leonard Floyd. And it's tiring. Stop, take these chances on old people and get goddamn talent that can make a difference. And I don't care if you have to overpay and it falls flat on your face. This whole young approach is killing them. It's killing them. And if at least Andy Reid in Kansas City, they know how to slot people in. The Bills have no idea what they're doing with half these people.
Yep.
Someone made a good point in the comments, and this is like the whole philosophy change that's happened with, I don't know who it was. Let me go look. Beans let us down, but even when McDermott had the guys, he couldn't do it. And that's, I think, where, like, I do see that point. Micah Hyde was a blue chip. Jordan Poyer was a blue chip. Matt Milano was a blue chip. Trey White was a blue chip.
Yeah.
They had years with him as an all-pro, right? Stephon Diggs was a blue chip. Now, no one really else on offense. Obviously, Josh Allen's a blue chip. But that's 6 guys off the top of my head. And probably, I mean, maybe Ed Oliver, but I don't think he's a blue chip player, even though they drafted him to be a blue chip player. The thing is like, that's where I think this has failed from a whole, is that even, and again, we go back to like the conversations we had a few weeks ago with like, well, the Bills can win in multiple ways. If they run it, you can beat them with the pass. And I was not of that belief, but that's what we've heard. And I think that wasn't ever the case. And we've seen that. That's why they went and traded for Amari Cooper last year, right? That was a guy they wanted to get because they could not establish a pass or the passing game. Allen was 9 for 19 against the Houston, maybe worse, against the Houston Texans, and they knew they had to make a change. Now, I hope Bean does go and try and get a guy that can try to, make this offense more explosive. But the point being is this. What they failed with all these blue chip players, in my opinion. So now they reacted, and they're like, okay, well, Josh Allen's good enough. Josh Allen is good enough where you can go get a Keon Coleman, who obviously at this point to me is, I'm not going to go say as far as bust, because there's still, he's a big guy. He's had some moments, but to me, he just can't win a man coverage, and he's a liability out there when teams play man and blitz. He just is. I think the problem is this. Neither philosophy is working, and I don't want to say which one's worked more. There's still a lot of season left, and again, I said this before, that they're a bottom 10 wide receiver unit, and I think that they can still be successful with that. But right now, at this point, I don't know if they can. And again, that's why I think they do need to make a move for a wide receiver. I think they even need to make a move for a safety or a corner at this point, with the absolute inability for them to stop the run and defend the pass. So I'll say that the Bills are a team that lacks talent. They lack the blue chip guys. They've had the blue chip guys in the past and it failed. Now we're seeing this iteration that lacks blue chip guys and they're still failing. So it comes to me, it's like it's a total failure from McDermott and Bean. And I still think they can turn it around. I still think they have the ability to figure this season out and make a run with the AFC and how it stands. And I think they have Josh Allen, and I think he can play at a higher level than he's playing right now. But with what I've seen the past 2 weeks and what I've seen even during the Saints and Dolphins wins, I do think there's a problem with what they're doing philosophically. And I think it is catching up to them. And I think teams are starting to figure them out. And their best offense is running the football with James Cook. That's a problem when you have Josh Allen. And that's just, if that's what it's going to be, I just don't see them when it matters, doing what they need to do to get over the hump. So it stinks. They've tried the blue chip stuff and they've had blue chip guys and they've still failed. And now this, like Mike said, this roster, they just lack, blue chip players all around. I mean, the Falcons have way more talent with their, their blue chip guys. So it is frustrating. And I don't I don't know the answers, man. Like they'll be there. They'll be there in the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be, in those games down the stretch. But it's just that kind of history of they always fail in those moments. So I think that's the hard thing for fans to cope with.
Alex, do you have any answers?
Oh yeah, I have all the answers how to solve the Bills. I don't know. I mean, what was talking about though, when you're talking about these blue chip guys, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, these blue chip guys. Those are guys who weren't blue chip guys until they came into the Bills, though, and they were under McDermott, and then they became all pros. I mean, Jordan Poyer wasn't even seeing the field on the fucking 1-15 Browns before he came to Buffalo. So I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's like a talent disconnect. They're not finding the right guys, but it's not like they can't develop. That's the problem too. Like look at Benford even, who was a 5th round pick or 5th or 6th round pick, and a guy who last year we were talking about could be was an all pro, and that's why he got this extension. But I don't know. It's weird. Even like going out into the trade market right now, who can they go and get? In terms of there's not really any team that's shopping their wide receiver one, even if the Bills could afford it. There's not really a team doing that. They got Raheed Shaheed is probably the only guy they can get, and he's it's cheap. It's $5 million, but are the Saints even going to do that? Honestly, who knows? I don't know. There's not really an easy answer for them to go even in trading. I feel like what safety is out there right now for them to get. It's what corner? There's not really all these desperate teams. I mean, I guess you got what's his name? Tariq Woolen. They go to the Seahawks. They were talking about that he was going to be trade potential. I don't know. Is he really that much of an improvement? We don't know. Safety. I don't know anybody team that's shopping a safety right now.
That's the thing is it's a lot. Whatever move gets made at this point is more just we got to shuffle the deck. We got to change something at least. It's not we know for sure unless there is some starter that comes available on the end of a contract or something that the Bills can like Mike was saying, send a high round pick to that if they would even consider doing that. Sure, but yeah, it's
even Amari Cooper last year was we just need somebody, and then he was barely even a part of the offense for most of the year.
He's playing 30% snaps. Is it crazy to think Jordan Poyer couldn't be better than what they have right now? I know people are gonna say he's old, he's washed. I think a washed Jordan Poyer might be better than what they currently have.
The one snap they showed of Poyer when he first came in, and the one thing that I noticed at least. I've told you guys about this a couple of different weeks ago. Yes, communication. He was moving guys already, getting them in the right spot.
That's what I'm saying. That alone,
that's the thing. There's no vet leadership on the back end of this Bills defense at all. You have Trey White, but he's a corner. He's not spreading this out, and you can see there's miscommunication when Bijan had that nice pickup against them when he was wide open down the side.
Joey Bosa got immediate he was there in about 2 seconds, and it didn't matter because he blew the cover.
So that's the thing. They need someone like that. And that's the thing. Terrell Bernard, that was the point of the game where I think he was out. So he's supposed to be your main communication guy. His 4th year in the league, but he's out. So now you have a guy who they picked up this year, Shaq Thompson. You have Dorian Williams, who's barely hit or miss even seeing the field. And now you're this is your main source of communication to run this defense.
Yeah.
And they got better without Terrell Bernard on the field.
They did.
That's the thing.
Yeah. They tightened up. They did tighten up.
Thompson must have been running it, man.
Don't say that because that's gonna. I mean,
but that's concerning to me.
I thought the same thing. I did.
You know what, Mike? I'm going to say this out loud, and if Cover One gets this, they will obliterate me and they will kill me for saying this. I think we all just like Terrell Bernard because he feels like somebody that should be a great football guy.
No. We love Terrell Bernard because he overperformed expectation, and then we
for a 6-game.
We put
stretch.
Too much expectation on.
Yes, exactly.
Not a 6-game stretch. It's more than a 6-game stretch.
Well, if you look at Bernard and how he produced, he produced at a super high level the first 4 or 5 games that year when Milano was healthy in the first 3, and then Milano went down, and the splash plays were eviscerated the rest of the season. Almost all of his splash plays came in the first 3-4 games of the season with Milano, and he had some still after that fact. But I know PFF, we have our criticisms, but PFF has never been high on Terrell Bernard. Let's be real. We love him because he makes some splash plays. He speaks. He's very articulate when he speaks. He's a leader on that roster. People look up to him. He leads by example. He leads as a man. And he's what you look at and say that should be one of the voices and captains of our team. but his play on the field doesn't match it. And yes, he has the ability to make spectacular plays, but why do you think the Bills suck against the run so much? It's not like they just started a nickel defense when Terrell Bernard became linebacker. They ran a nickel defense when Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano were linebackers. And guess what? They weren't great against the run during those years, but they were at least normally average. What's the difference? Was the Bills' defensive line early on with McDermott era during the 17, 18, 19, 20 seasons, were they amazing? Those defensive lines had people like Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips getting prominent minutes. Like they had Jerry Hughes, who was Mr. Pass Rush win rate, but not getting to the quarterback down.
Yes.
Like
Greg Rousseau 2.0.
Like
Jordan Phillips had 9.5 sacks.
Those defenses did not have monsters. And I'll be real. Like, I know Tremaine Edmonds is far from perfect and that people in Chicago hate on him. ESPN execs rated him as a top 10 linebacker in the league for what he does. And we can hate on like what he did. And yes, he's overrated and he never lived up to his draft type. I would take Tremaine Edmonds over every single one of the Bills linebackers right now. Now, I understand why we let him go. He wasn't worth the price tag. But Tremaine Edmonds, he would make a little bit of a difference. Now, I know he sucked at shredding blocks and other stuff. But these linebackers can't even do anything. Like,
he's not a good middle linebacker. He's a great outside linebacker because he can stretch the field and he's good in coverage. I'm
just frustrated because like I don't know how they fix it. Like I talked about it last week on the show. Would you rather have a consistent defense that shows the same results on a weekly basis that you know come playoff time is going to get shredded, or would you want a high variance defense, one that's going to allow 10 points one week, but maybe they'll allow 30 points the next 2 weeks, and you know that Josh Allen has to outscore him? Most coaches are going to take that consistent 22, 23 points a game allowed versus 10 one week, 30 the next week, because then if you have inconsistency, they need their offense to step up on weeks, and that's a harder ask for most teams than telling them, okay, if you get 25 points in a week, you know you're going to win. Like, this game was awful by the defense, but at the end of the day, they allowed 24 points. Last week was awful by the defense, but at the end of the day, they allowed 23 points. The week before that was awful by the defense, but at the end of the day, they allowed 19 points. The week before that, awful by the defense. End of the day, 21 points. The week before that, not so great, but same story. So, like, the only one that was really, truly horrible was Baltimore. So we complain at the end of the day, like, DVOA, they were horrible. Like, EPA, they were horrible. But the end game is how many points do you allow? And if you tell anybody the Bills allow 24 points against the Atlanta Falcons, people are going to say the Bills are winning that game. You tell people the Bills are allowing 20 points against the New England Patriots, people are going to say the Bills are winning that game. So at the end of the day, as much as the defense sucks, and I'm going to 100% acknowledge they do suck, the real problem is on the offensive side of the ball, and people aren't going to want to talk about that because it creates an uncomfortable conversation. Because when we talk about offense in Buffalo, you can only say one thing: the receivers don't get separation, because no one wants to talk about the fact that Josh Allen needs to be perfect. Because once you acknowledge Josh Allen needs to be perfect, you basically are admitting the Bills don't have the roster to win a Super Bowl. And if you admit that the Bills don't have a roster to win a Super Bowl, when Josh Allen is 29 years old, he's going to his 30-year-old season, and he's only going to get slower and less elusive as time goes by, you're basically saying you're wasting one of his prime seasons, and when he may have 3 to 5 of those left in his career. And my biggest concern is the lack of running really is telling to me. And it tells me that the Bills think that they can beat these teams by being themselves. And what do they do in the playoffs when it gets colder? They start running it more. I don't think this is one of those seasons where they can keep doing the status quo and win the AFC East. If the Patriots start winning games and the Bills think they can still just get by, they'll find themselves in second place. And it'll be pretty funny when they go to Indianapolis in the first round and they lose by 25 and McDermott and Bean get fired as a result. Because that's what's going to happen if they don't get their heads out of their asses soon.
Yeah. On top of that, with Allen, he's taken 12 sacks this year. He took 14 all of last year.
And that's not all offensive line.
And that's not all offensive line. So I don't know if it's – and I think a lot of it has been the last couple of weeks, the happy feet, the looking for the hero ball and everything. But Is he not as fast? Is he not as mobile? Is he not as evasive? Is he dealing with an injury?
No.
Like, I don't know.
AJ,
But,
AJ,
like-
you can shake your head. He 100%, based on what I've seen this year, is not as elusive as he has been in the past.
You could go back.
He stepped
Literally
up in the
2 weeks
pocket
ago.
today.
Go back to like 2 weeks ago
Down.
against the Saints game where he broke off a 26-yard run, 25-yard run, where he shook defenders the entire way down the middle of the field. He
That
could
could
still
happen.
do it
It's true.
completely fine.
That could.
Yeah,
Those are the runs that he's
I don't
had
wanna
this
hear
year are
Don't
the
wanna hear
runs that he's had this year though are straight line runs that he's been able to break out of the pocket with. He hasn't had the same escapability from sacks and things like that when he's been in the pocket.
I
think
had
there's
a
a
very
difference between the run being able to get out in the open
100%.
field.
How many, even the design runs, that design pass read option today, how many yards did he got? He lost a yard. He is not exploding off the line. Like, I had a person that knows football 100 times more than me talk to me after last week and said, have you watched Josh in the running game this year? When it is not a straight line speed thing, he has not had the same escapability and the same movement that he typically has. You're right now, I'm trying to pull up his rushing stats right now just to see what it would pull up. But I'm telling you, like, there is something there. So far this year, his stats are pretty similar. He has 212 yards on the ground, so he is on pace for the normal numbers that he has on the air. But his success rate running is down about 10% compared to the last 2 years. So according to the more advanced metrics, he's not running as effectively.
But teams are playing. I mean, when you have an offensive line that I don't think is playing to the standard and the wide receiver, and I mean,
helps.
defenses can focus more on that. So
And they're playing 9 dudes. Like, teams are playing. Like, there was
they're playing them differently.
On third and 10 today. There's the one rep where Allen throws it basically to nobody on 3rd and 10, and it just is like a throwaway because he'd been more of a communication. There was not a Falcon that wasn't within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage at the snap. On 3rd and 10, bro, like 3rd and 10, and you have everybody pressed up against the line.
But yeah, once Palmer left, Jake, there was no, like, because Keon can't do Keon.
What does he do? What does he do
anything
besides be big? Besides be big, what does he do?
He doesn't do anything. He doesn't. He's terrible. I'm sorry.
He's just
terrible.
big.
I'll say it. He's terrible. He's terrible.
Mo, I'm sorry. I'm out on Keon. I know that we tried to
he's
manifest
okay.
this.
He'll figure it out.
Sorry, Alex. Keon was awesome. It was a fun story. Maybe we can talk about him a little bit.
I just don't know how we're escaping this offensive line shit. Like 14.
Well, the line hasn't been nearly as good. No,
okay, that's fair. But they're still
I
running.
would say the sacks in this game are all on the maybe not all, but at least one that's
He has one. If his first three's taken away, there's nowhere.
Yeah, when McGovern's out, so obviously your starting center's out. They just got completely overloaded. That's not Josh. He had nowhere to go.
And I agree. Teams are defending the Bills differently, but let's not act like they weren't defending teams like this in the beginning of last year before they got Cooper. This is literally the same exact conversation we had after the Texans and after the Baltimore games. Why are we now pretending like this didn't happen last year? The Bills were sacked 14 times in 17 games last year. They've gotten sacked 12 times in 6 games. It's the same 5 fucking players.
They're blitzing.
Dude,
they're
I
playing man
get it.
coverage.
The running game is running for the same yards per carry. They're still running the ball effectively. What has changed? The receivers are basically the same group of guys. So why are they getting sacked a lot more? Did the offensive line just stop learning how to play football? Or are they becoming too predictable? Are they not diagnosing it right? Are they not getting guys open? Because Amari Cooper was
all of those things.
But the problem
is, are they saying sometimes when Josh is trying to like get past the line of scrimmage and he's getting hit right at the line of scrimmage, are they calling those sacks? Because that can help.
No, you got to be behind the line.
No, but some of those are sacks where he's scrambling up forward in a tight pocket.
I didn't say when he gets hit when he gets back to the line.
Some of those are sacks.
But if you don't get past the line of scrimmage, it's a sack.
Yeah.
If it's no gain or a loss, it's considered a sack, and some of them are in those instances. My problem is this: we keep saying all of this shit like the receiver stuff is a new thing. It's the same exact scenario last year. And guess what Allen did last year? He threw like 6 interceptions for the entire season, and he won MVP. He's on pace right now to throw basically 13 interceptions. He's on pace right now to struggle to get to like 26, 27 touchdowns. He's on pace for basically I don't know the numbers. He has 9, 10, maybe he has 10, 11 touchdowns. So he'll probably still get to around 30 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. This is not the same performance he got last year. His guys last year were Mac Hollins, Keon Coleman, a washed up Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir, and an injured Dalton Kincaid. That arguably is a worse group of guys than what he is throwing to this year. So why is it magically looking worse? You can't.
Well, I will say that you can't just say direct line from one year to another because there's a whole year of tape on the Bills.
Jake, but the problem is this. The problem is this. And I'm sorry. I'm done with the fucking excuses. I'm done. Jake, no offense. Everybody in Buffalo is a goddamn apologist. I'm done with it. I get it. I know he's the only reason the Bills are a Super Bowl contender. I know with Mitch Trubisky in the game, he gets sacked 7 times a game, and the Bills go 3-14, and they're picking number 1 overall, and they suck. What I am trying to say is we keep saying that what has changed from this year to last year? What do they have to do to fix it? There's only one thing that they can do to fix it, and that is hope their quarterback suddenly makes better decisions or guys magically get open. Jake, you said it during the New Orleans game. What did you see? You saw
impatience.
You saw no patience. What did you see against New England? No patience. What did you see today? He's getting frustrated.
But today was the worst, for sure.
This is my problem, Jake. So the offensive line is playing worse. We know that. The receivers aren't good. We know that. But know what is also happening simultaneously? The quarterback is playing worse as a result. And yes, any other quarterback would get worse and would struggle in these situations. But Josh didn't do that last year, which means that Josh is regressing to the situation around him, which means he is part of the problem right now. And if you don't acknowledge he is part of the problem, then you don't fix the goddamn problem. Because if you don't acknowledge what's wrong, you're not going to make it right. What happened last year when they lost back-to-back against Baltimore and Houston? They addressed their problem, and they fixed it. They got Amari Cooper. They started running the ball more effectively, and they realized we need to do some play action. We need to fix things up. Well, know what they also did? They stopped trying all the downfield shit all the time because it wasn't working. And what did the Bills do the last 3 weeks? They keep trying to let Josh Allen win them games and do things that he's done in the past, and it's not getting any better. So anybody that keeps saying, well, Josh Allen has to do this, he has to do that, it's not going to fucking work. So I'm tired of this.
They were also down 20-10 against New England and 21-7 against Atlanta.
I get it. But what did they do early in that game? They abandoned the run. They gave the ball to Cook 15 times last week against New England. Cook is getting paid $12 million a year. He's a 3-down running back right now. If that's the only if that's the strength of your team, why are you giving up on it so early? The Bills were up 13-10 in the third quarter of the New England game. So
they were down 13-10.
No, they were up 13-10. You're right. They're up 10 to whatever. The point being, they had the lead after they got the touchdown to Curtis Samuel. This team is not going to magically get better by the way everybody says it's going to get better. They're not getting A.J. Brown. They're not getting Chris Olave. So tell me, what do you want them to do? And if the answer is, force the ball to Tyrell Shavers more, then you're an idiot. No offense.
Well,
Tyrell Shavers ain't coming. No, I got to get this right. And I'm not yelling at you, Alex. This is just the way I am when I'm mad. AJ's used to it. But I'm tired of all the stupidity. It's not going to fucking get better with all the suggestions that people want. There's only one way it gets better. Involve Josh Allen in the run game. That's the only way it's getting better with this group. If they refuse to run the ball with Josh Allen, then they have to just magically hope they run the ball for 5 yards per carry each week with James Cook, because that is the only way the rest of the offense is going to get open. Like I told you all offseason, Josh Palmer was a key to this offense. And you laugh at me when he struggles to put up numbers in the first 5 games. And now you see firsthand how shitty they look with Josh Palmer. But you talk about how Xavier Worthy looks so amazing when he gets 40 yards a game and has 120 in 3 games.
33.6, baby.
The point of it is you're an absolute hypocrite when you make points like that. And it's foolish because Josh Palmer is important because they need to open things up.
Yeah, Palmer. I think Kincaid was more of a loss, but Palmer was definitely based off of the first quarter of that small 15-minute sample size. Yes, Palmer was definitely.
If Josh leads Palmer on that first play of the game, it's a 75-yard touchdown. Yeah, I just want to say that.
Yep,
that's true too. I agree.
That is true.
But that's Bunt. He's not being as accurate on these deep throws as he could be. That's a touchdown.
He struggled. Look at that. Yeah, he struggled that. He struggled. That's his biggest weakness.
All I'm trying to say is we need to have a legitimate critique. Like,
yeah,
the
sure.
Bills win games when they don't turn the ball over. Josh Allen almost handed them points before the end of the half. Like,
that was a horrible.
No, it played right into what they wanted. Taylor Rapp made a great play.
Exactly, Alex. Good thinking.
Yeah. The point of it is this.
Looking ahead.
There's a miscalculation right now by the Bills. And it's either the miscalculation goes like this. If you really want to know what is costing the Bills on offense, the miscalculation is either that Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott believe that Josh Allen is good enough to elevate almost anybody at receiver, or in order for Josh Allen to be the best version of himself, he needs a premier receiver. The reason why both of those are shitty situations for the Bills is if you're a believer that Josh Allen can elevate almost anybody on his team, then the results on the field right now are counter to that and show that either the Bills have the worst receiving group in the history of the NFL or that Josh Allen really can't elevate just anybody at receiver. Now, there's always a middle ground to that. The other part is that Josh Allen might need a Stephon Diggs, because if you look at it, Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs for 4 years threw for well over 4,000 yards each season, and he threw for 30-plus touchdowns 3 or 4 seasons, I believe. So the answer probably is like you need somebody better than Keon Coleman as your number one, but you don't need a Stephon Diggs. But here's the problem. The Bills banked their salary cap allocation on the theory that Josh Allen being an MVP quarterback could make guys like Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid be higher-end performers than what we've seen. So what that means is that Brandon Beane either severely miscalculated what he thinks Josh Allen is as a quarterback, or that Brandon Beane severely miscalculated how bad that group of talent is.
Or we've all severely miscalculated how good Joe Brady can scheme up a pass game, because we know he can scheme up a run game. He's been great at the run game since he took over in the second half of the year, but he's never been able to have the explosive pass game. And I will tell you, sometimes it looks like you see the routes that guys are running down. It's like, okay, man, like I don't see any inventivity here. Like it's a one dig and one go route on the left side of the field.
That's a total failure right now.
That's the thing is we're all right, because there are issues all over this.
You can sit here and rant about Josh Allen that he's regressed. You can sit here and say the Bills wide receivers can't separate. You can sit here and say Joe Brady,
no matter where he goes, he's able to hit deep balls with any group of receivers.
Who is this? Who are you talking about?
Baker Mayfield, wherever he goes, he can hit a deep ball, regardless of his group of receivers. Sam Darnold is one of the best deep ball guys in the league.
He does have Mike Evans on his
Chris
team.
Godwin, Mika Kuka, and Bucky Irving.
The point being is this. No, AJ, you can shake your head, but there is Josh Allen is great because he's maybe the best improvisational quarterback in the NFL history. But if you made Josh Allen play football the way football was played in 1985 and 1995, he would have been benched a year and a half into his career and would have been a 25 interception guy back in that day. Back in the day, they didn't let you just roll out of the pocket, throw 40-yarders downfield, or throw across your body into the middle of traffic, because what happened back then, your receivers would die, or you would throw a lot of interceptions. If we're being real, Lamar Jackson.
To be fair, you could throw a lot of interceptions back there. Jim Kelly led the league, 4 years? So
Jim Kelly was a good quarterback, obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he also benefited from having a Hall of Fame like roster around him. Like if Josh Allen played with that team in the 90s, the Bills would have won 3 Super Bowls. Like Jim Kelly was not even close to what Josh Allen is as a talent. The problem I'm saying is this. Josh Allen and the Lamar Jacksons, they do what they do because they are the best off-script quarterbacks in the history of the league. But
And Mahomes.
Mahomes too. But the difference with Mahomes is Mahomes on script is one of the best quarterbacks.
Yeah, he is. And he
has the best structure. He has the best structure.
And he has the best offensive mind.
Yeah.
Like scheming.
How many? And I'll double on that with you, Mike. How many off-script quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl in their life?
Not
like
many. And
John Elway. That's
what I'm trying to say. That's what. But that's what
Brady was so good on script.
But that's what concerns me. Let's be real.
I only need one, to be fair. So
why do we always have this whole like? Sometimes the metrics say like the Bills receivers get no separation, but then there's games where like, what?
Don't talk about any analytic, any metric bullshit. Just does he have that dog in him? The Bills don't have dogs. We talked about this earlier.
No, but the point is this. The point is this. Sometimes there are guys that are wide open, but because you're improvising and you're not doing what the play says, you miss guys. Now, far more often than not.
All right, Mike, they're never winning one. Let's get to the conclusion we had last week. They're never.
No, I'm just saying. Like, I hate having this conversation because what ends up happening is 85% of fans say I hate Josh Allen, and then I get unfollowed by 100 people. And people call me an idiot. You don't appreciate the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Delete the tweet.
Like right, Pat. Like I love it, but like we lost because of our defense. Like I'm sorry, how many points did they allow in the second half? 3.
No, it was not. It was not the defense, Pat.
No, not in the second half.
The defense sucked in the first half, but they
allowed
28-7. This is what I struggle with. Our fan base is incapable of even holding him 1% accountable. I don't blame losses on him. I'm just saying, can we just hold him 1% accountable? Like, is that too much to ask? Because you know what the rest of the nation looks like at games like this? They'll be like, yeah, Atlanta had a lot of pressure, tough game for Josh, not his best. But you know what? He had opportunities. And if that was Joe Burrow out there, and yes, I know it's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but we've seen how other quarterbacks in Cincinnati look with those same weapons. They look like shit. So maybe Burrow does elevate those guys a little bit as well. We have to be real. If you are an MVP quarterback in the NFL that is considered a generational talent that is expected to win a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter about your surrounding situation. Everybody across the league, AJ, you can shake your head, but you're going to be wrong because I know how the history of these leagues. I'm a sports historian, AJ. That's the difference between you and me. I know how legacies are formed. Josh Allen could throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns every year and rush for another 10 touchdowns. No, AJ, no offense. It's rude when you laugh when I say this shit. They're
laughing.
No. If Josh Allen throws for 4,000 yards every year, 30 touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns, he gets 40 touchdowns every year, but he never goes to a Super Bowl, do you know how he gets remembered as? Dan Marino. And that doesn't mean fucking shit, dude.
You're right.
You laugh.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean
he's on a very Philip Rivers page.
Joe Namath was a horrible. Joe Namath was not a good quarterback.
Philip Rivers, yeah.
No. But AJ, this is the problem because you don't think long-term history. Joe Namath was not a great quarterback. He was actually pretty average for most of his career, if not below average for most of the time. But he won a Super Bowl, so he's a Hall of Famer. Eli Manning was a below-average quarterback the last 7 years of his career. But he won 2 Super Bowls, so he might get to the Hall of Fame one day. He's remembered for beating Brady. Yeah. Terry Bradshaw threw more interceptions than touchdowns, I think, for his career. But he won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers.
That's a different time in the league.
Yeah. Different eras, I respect that. But even John Elway. John Elway was known as the biggest loser in the Jim Kelly before Jim Kelly because John Elway lost his first 3 Super Bowls, and then Jim Kelly lost 4 in a row. In Buffalo, we idolized Jim Kelly. And yes, he's respected in NFL circles. But you know what fan bases all across America think of Jim Kelly? They have him associated as a loser because he lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. If you want Josh Allen to be respected as an all-time great, top 5 quarterback, which he has the ability to go down as, he needs to fucking win one no matter what. And the problem is this. Yes, I know the defense lets him down. I know the coaching lets him down. But did you know Troy Aikman won a Super Bowl with Barry Switzer as his head coach? Barry Switzer was one of the worst
Barry Switzer
NFL head coaches
shit.
I've ever seen. But he won a Super Bowl with Troy Aikman, who people joke that Ryan Fitzpatrick was better than. But Troy Aikman won a Super Bowl with him. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. There are countless average to like no-name quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls over the history of time. And at the end of the day, that's how legacies are defined. And if people in Buffalo want to make the Josh Allen excuse, like, okay, the coaching wasn't good enough, like the players suck. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, good. 20 years from now, when Josh Allen goes into the Hall of Fame, or 15 years from now, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, we can talk about how he had the most touchdown passes and the most touchdowns in NFL history, and how he didn't win one Super Bowl, and it didn't mean anything. Because at the end of the day, when you're great, you're expected to find a way to win regardless of the circumstances. Peyton Manning, nobody ever talks about how Peyton Manning was like, couldn't even throw a spiral when he won a second Super Bowl, how he was a backup to Brock Osweiler, but he won a Super Bowl. Like, and it made up for all the times he lost one. At the end of the day, hey, AJ, you laugh, but like,
Dude, Jake's laughing. I'm laughing
Dude,
Jake.
it was the Brock Osweiler line, because Brock.
I'm tired of the loser Buffalo fan mentality.
Mike, I understand, man. I literally, Josh has no confidence right now, and he does not trust what he's seeing. And the only way this gets figured out is if they go into the bye week. Joe Brady, the wide receivers, whatever they do with meetings, whatever. The only way this gets fixed is one, like you said, Mike, I agree. They need to run the football more, because that is their best offensive weapon, is running the football. James Cook averaged 5 yards per carry. That's what they do best right now as an offense. That's just what it is. Even with Josh Allen, even with a arguably top 3 quarterback in the league right now, that's their best offense. 2, the wide receivers have to win more, right? I think that's true. 3, the offensive line's got to be better. And 4, your MVP quarterback has to be smarter, better situationally, and make accurate throws down the field, in the short game, or whatever it is, on the same communication. They have to come together and make it work. That's the only way this fixes. It's not just the Josh Allen being better. It's not just the wide receivers getting open. It's not just the offensive line being better. It's collectively Joe Brady becoming a better play caller in short yardage situations, which would have extended drives. It's Josh Allen making the right reads in the situational moments that they need him to make those plays. And it's the wide receivers coming up in big moments, like a Keon Coleman, who you spent a second-round pick in, a Joshua Palmer, who you spent $12 million on, a Curtis Samuel, who you spent $9 million on. The list goes on. Dalton Kincaid, a first-round pick. Those guys need to step up. That is the only way that this gets figured out.
Well, and I think the biggest thing you said with – go ahead, Alex.
Well, no, I thought, AJ, I thought you were going to say, like, in the bye week that Joe Brady and all the receivers, I thought they needed to like, go on like a darkness retreat and just like seclude themselves.
That could work too.
Hey, go with Rodgers. Ask Aaron Rodgers what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the issue. Is I know Josh is texting Aaron Rodgers every single day. They both mentioned it all the time. Maybe Rodgers is a fucking sleeper agent getting in Josh's head, ruining his body. I can see that for sure.
Why on 3rd and 1 are they not QB sneaky?
No, they're trying to save him. They're worried about him taking hits and everything else. And he took a bet today. Even today, he gets up and takes a hit. Yeah, they have to. They absolutely have to. And I think that the biggest thing you mentioned is confidence. And I think if he's the leader of this team, he's the engine of this team. He's the heart and soul. The team feeds off of him, everything else. But when he's sugar high, Josh, and he's antsy, and if all week he was like in the rooms and the meetings and everything was like, I don't know, we don't really have a lot of we don't have a lot of answers. We're gonna play this really whatever their game. I don't even know what the game plan. I guess the game plan was a lot of Josh Palmer today, but potentially, so maybe not part of it. But once Allen starts losing that composure on the sideline, once you see him go to the sideline and have that stare and him throw down the tablet and everything like that, like the whole team, for better or worse, permeates through what his like psyche is in those moments. And he too often is not just the stone cold assassin that you want out of these guys like that. Like that is the one difference between him and Patrick Mahomes. Is Patrick Mahomes is a fucking psychopath, and Josh is a normal guy. And I think that's like the biggest disconnect. And not saying that he can't win that, not saying that he's not a super competitive guy, not saying that that's not a reason, but there is just a little bit of a temperament thing where you can see it start slipping for Josh, and it starts slipping for everybody on the roster because they're like, well, if he's like this, and it happens with this team as much as anybody else because he is the culture. He is that room. Like he is everything that they do, everything their culture runs through him and what he is in any given moment. So when they look sugar high, when they look antsy, it usually coordinates with when he's doing that.
And I think Jake, like too, and I know this is a crazy point, but I'm gonna put it out there anyway. Josh Allen, all he's known in his NFL career is failure. And I've seen him, in interviews talk about, even the interview before the game.
Tonight,
I'm
more than a football player. Like, and even when he was asked, like, what would
that's
Lombardi?
a little concerning answer, to be honest.
No. I'm getting to it though. Let me say. He was like, what would Lombardi mean to you? And he's like, yeah, like I will be remembered and I'll look back at my football career 20 years later. And that's what I'll be looked at as. And someone in my comments, when I posted that quote about like my wife's my biggest fulfillment and, I'm more than a football player. Someone said, well, I wish he was Tom Brady. He was only a football player. I mean, I think that does I think he's so used. And again, that's why I go back to like the McDermott and Bean thing. Is like the moxie and the confidence when you're going out there year after year with the same head coach, and consistency is great. It's great. It's a great thing because you have that established ability to win the big games, and you've had great moments, and you've won the big games in the regular season when it's mattered. But I think it comes to a point when you're so used to just failure, because that's what he's had. It's just failure to the same
moment failure.
Big
moment
failure. I think it does play a role on your mental. It just does. And I think he's getting so comfortable with that. And that's why I think a change may be good for him with what they're expecting or what, the mindset is, because I just don't, it did concern me. Like, I don't want to be that guy, but Mike said it, like, it does concern me that he's a little bit complacent of like Lamar Jackson gets the James Harden comparison with all the stats. It's like, is Josh Allen also like a James Harden? Like the stats.
He's Russell Westbrook.
Right.
I think
That's a little bit like
he's too humble.
I got a Rush jersey sitting in my closet.
That's why I said it. It was for you. I thought that'd be a good call.
I think it is a thing. I think the acceptance of not getting there with the same guys and just the consistent failure in the big moments. I think
it's a tough message, man. I think he's humble, so he doesn't want to come across as cocky. He also doesn't want to like define his career like it's only success if I get a Super Bowl, because then you're putting pressure on yourself.
Right.
Yeah. But then he also married like a Hollywood actress that might win an Oscar,
and he's just denying the pressure because Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think in his head he's like, Haley's about to get nominated for a second Oscar right now? He's like, I can't, be like letting the family down.
I don't think Josh. I think Josh is a well-spoken guy, and I think he says the PR right thing to say 95% of the time. My concern is that I don't know if I want him to be the PR, say the right thing 95%.
Right. I agree with that.
I
agree with that.
I need him to get to the point where it's like, yes, we do need to fix it.
I need this.
And I know he's doing what leaders do, accept responsibility, head coaches and stuff. But I need him to almost be like, this is not acceptable. We aren't getting it done. We have to find a way. But he's so humble and reserved and soft spoken that yes, he's. And I know this is all nitpicky shit, but I do want to see a little bit of a change.
These are the margins that we have to look at, though, Mike. It's the right margins to look at because that's those things that could be separating them
I'll put it like this:
from one drive getting a win.
I bet you Allen is pissed off, internally.
Oh, I would imagine.
But that he doesn't express that externally because that is showing a moment of weakness when you're expected as a quarterback to be strong. But a person like Brady, no offense, he did have that, it is unacceptable. Anything short of winning is unacceptable. And I'll put it like this. The reason why I am so hard on Josh during the 1% during the regular season is because we've seen that be the margin between getting to the Super Bowl and getting to the later rounds and beating the Chiefs and not doing it. So I'm not on the team. I'm not in the organization. But my thought process is this. If you're not making that 1% play in the regular season when it matters, how am I supposed to count on you to make that 1% play in the playoffs when it matters? And if we're always talking about like, well, receivers don't get open or the line is going to struggle. Well, you know what that sounds? That sounds like the AFC divisional round 2 years ago when Deion Dawkins, your Pro Bowl left tackle, let Chris Jones barely get a hand on the elbow and you throw an incompletion. And that was the 1% margin that kept you from the AFC championship. You know what it also sounds like? Sounds like the AFC championship last year where you have a chance to tie the game with a field goal or win it with a touchdown. And guess what? You have 4 plays and you get 5 yards and you throw an incompletion because your offensive line failed once again. And then you didn't get a guy open in time and Kincaid drops it. So, like, I guess this is my issue. The ultimate goal is the Super Bowl. And I still see a path with this team, with the current roster, as flawed as they are, to where they could make a run if they got hot at the right time. But they need, as a fan base, as a team, they need to hold themselves. And I know the team does. Not just because they don't execute or like they get the results we want doesn't mean they don't hold themselves to this. But they need to be at that standard where that 1% is unacceptable. Tom Brady said in an interview I saw on TikTok recently that he would throw 600 to 700 footballs over the course of a football season, and that only 17 or 18 of the throws he would define as perfect throws. AJ did send it to me, so thank you, AJ. That is the best of all time, saying that on basically 95% of his throws, he could have done something better. I don't have that feeling that is how the Buffalo Bills are run on offense.
I don't think so.
Well, I don't
think run at all.
Yeah,
I don't think
it comes back, dude. It comes back to like the complacency. Like it's the NFL, and maybe this is a wake up call. Like maybe this is like what they need, but it just happens too often with this roster and this regime where I just feel like they expect Allen to
carry everybody.
Yes.
But that's the problem. Allen feels that. And let's be real. Everybody jokes about the Allen throwing up before a game thing. That should be very concerning to fans. No. Not a positive. Like
Alex is like, nah.
No, it's not. No, because it's even at the lowest level of like football or like coaches, they're throwing up before every game or a big game because that's how you get the nerves out.
I get it. I know it's nerves. I played sports like growing up. I get it.
Mike Bunt 1v1, he's puking before he plays me, man.
He's your quarterback, though. You need, and yes, it makes him mentally like get in it and get it out of him. Like, I'm not calling him out for throwing up. I'm calling him out that's something public that they want the world to know. That goes back to the messaging that I talked with AJ. It shows that he gets so psyched up for games that he is feeling it. And then in an AFC championship, when you see him throw nearly 2 interceptions on the first 3 throws of the game and they go 3 and out, that's a wasted possession because he's too hyped up. And when you see him against the Patriots on the final drive and he nearly throws an interception on a rolling to his left to James Cook, too hyped up. When you see him not get – how many times in the playoffs have you seen him have a game-winning drive? And I know 13 seconds wasn't his fault. Like, that wasn't his fault. But, like, how many times has he won a game in overtime where the Bills had the ball with a chance to win it with a touchdown? Zero. How many times in the playoffs when he had a chance for a game-winning drive with under 2 minutes left has he finished it? And I know 13 seconds is not his fault, so that's an asterisk. Zero. How many times tonight did we have a chance to tie the game in the fourth quarter or late in the third quarter? And we converted. How many times did we convert? Zero. How many games can you recall where they have chances late? The Bills are front runners. This is what people don't want to talk about. The Bills have the biggest point differential in the NFL in the last 5 years. They blew teams out forever. Why? Because their offense would get out to a quick start. And then with their havoc defense, when they had Poyer and Hyde, they would get sacks. They would get interceptions. They were top 5 in takeaways like most of those seasons. Since McDermott's taken over, they've been a top 10 defensive takeaway team. What's the difference right now? They're not creating takeaways, so the offense has less margin of error. This is why you need to hold Allen more accountable right now, because last year when the defense is creating takeaways at a top 5 rate, even though they stink in the yards allowed and everything like that, they're giving the ball to the offense in good situations with a shorter field where you have a higher probability of putting points on the board. But when the defense isn't creating takeaways like they are right now, and there's no signs of getting better, know what you need? You need your offense to execute at a higher percentage. So this is where I'm critical of Josh. The whole throwing up stuff, those are moments where the margins were tough and they were narrow and you needed perfection. And he fell short in the past. What I'm trying to say right now is with this defense as below average as it is and no sign of it getting dramatically better, we're going to be in a lot more of these tight games going forward where it's going to be 25-24, where it's going to be 30-27. So when you don't have the weapons at receiver and you need to run the ball effectively, anytime you don't run the ball effectively, Josh is going to have to carry the team. So I don't think fans realize the easy streak of just blowing teams out 75% of the time.
We're going to find out.
It's over right now. We are not blowing anybody out going forward. We're struggling to put away the New Orleans Saints and the Miami Dolphins, and we're losing to the Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. We are in a crucial era of Bills football where Josh is going to start having to win shootouts. And if he doesn't do it, they're going to lose. And what's going to happen? And I say this as a hypothetical. We don't worry about Josh's performance when he throws 2 interceptions. The Bills win a game 30-14 because whatever, they cruise. There was no worry about the other team scoring. What if the Bills lose 4 games in a row and the score is 30-27, 27-24, 31-28? What are we going to do? Are we going to just be like, oh, the defense sucks? That's horrible. The defense cost them games. No, you're going to have to say, well, how come what's the quarterback? Bryce Young led Carolina to 31 points.
Don't say that.
And we scored 28. How come?
Can I make a point?
I know, but I don't want to think about that.
No, how come Aaron Rodgers just threw for 4 touchdowns against us?
No, stop it. Stop it. Stop.
How come Shedeur Sanders in his debut as an NFL starter throws for 6 touchdowns and the Bills?
All right, Mike's drunk. We got to cut him off. This is crazy.
No, I had no drinks tonight. But the point of it is this: we forget it wasn't long ago that the Bills were 6-6 in 2023, coming off a loss against the Philadelphia Eagles, where they had a 14% chance to make the playoffs, and the Miami Dolphins blew a 3-game lead in the last 5 games of the season. We were so close that year to missing the playoffs, and who knows what would have happened? Maybe they would have fired McDermott. Maybe they wouldn't. But we have to remember the lessons of that season. You know what I had fans bringing up to me when I brought up that 10 of Josh Allen's 18 interceptions that year were on passes 20-plus yards downfield? They said arm punts. You know what I have a problem with arm punts? Sometimes an arm punt is an arm punt. Other times an arm punt is an arm punt when you have a guy wide open for 10 yards for a first down gain, but you got so aggressive in your head, you decided let's throw it 45 yards downfield instead of taking what's right in front of you. Sometimes an arm punt is 2nd and 7, and you're pressured and you're rolling out, and you're like, I'm just going to fucking chuck it. The Bills learned lessons in that season, which is why they built the team the way they did right now. And what I'm afraid of right now is that because of the talent deficit, they are starting to show signs of what they did under Ken Dorsey. And that it should be worrisome because Dorsey was a fucking clusterfuck. And what ended up happening under Dorsey, even though they put up EPA numbers that were good and DVOA, and Cover One was paying me to say positive things about the Bills offense and Ken Dorsey at that point. What happened? Their points per game went down to like 26 a game. And they started losing games to the Broncos. They started losing games to like the most random teams in the league, like New England. If this offense doesn't correct some of what their scheme and philosophical things are, they are going to start losing more of these games. Carolina on the road is not an automatic win.
There's no automatic win.
Let's be real. We're 4-2 right now.
The Dolphins and Jets, those might be automatic.
Maybe the Jets. If Justin Fields that quarterback.
The point of it is this. The Patriots have maybe the easiest remaining schedule in the NFL. Do we trust this Buffalo Bills team to go on the road and beat any top-tier team right now in the league?
to go on the road.
I don't trust them to win a game at this point. I was
Like,
telling
that's the
everybody
thing. 2 weeks ago,
I was
we're
like,
talking about, and like I know this is me too, but like 2 weeks ago, right now this is just therapy. So I'm sorry for going so long. Like I don't even know if people are watching anymore, but it's therapy for me. Like 2 weeks ago, I'm talking about the Bills having the best odds for the 1 seed, and basically how the Cards are playing their way to host an AFC Championship and go to the Super Bowl. This is what I'm concerned about. Is you have a year where Kansas City might be a wild card, and you might be wasting it. Like no Baltimore, like Baltimore's 1-5. They lose 2 more games, they might be out of the playoff picture, like entirely. Like Kansas City, yes, they're going to make the playoffs, but we don't know if they're going to make the playoffs as the AFC West division champ or if they're going to make the playoffs as a 5 seed or a 6 seed. Like all I'm saying is this: I'm going to be haunted by nightmares if somehow Baltimore misses the playoffs, the Chiefs end up with the 5 seed, the Bills end up with a 6, and we end up still going to Kansas City in the AFC Championship.
That's the difference between me and you. Is I'm already haunted by the nightmares of this team. They can't hurt me anymore. I don't trust this team when it comes down to this point. Like
I don't trust them. I don't trust them. I don't.
They can't be trusted.
I think.
You want to know right now, Mike, your poly market odds though? Leaving this game,
still have the Bills at like 20%.
Here's the weird thing.
Go ahead, Jake.
Here's the weird thing. The AFC champion odds, Buffalo's still the favorites, 25%. Kansas City, 22%. You go to the Super Bowl champion odds, Kansas City, 15%. Buffalo, 13%. They split it down the middle. Kansas City's the Super Bowl favorites, but somehow Buffalo is the AFC favorite.
But Mike, like seriously,
so I don't know how this happened, but Mike, you were telling us about different markets earlier. Go ahead, AJ. Sorry,
Mike. You say that like, and this is the thing that like it all comes back to me as like observing it and watching it. You say Josh Allen has to be perfect. Josh Allen knows that. So mentally, because if you know it sitting there at your house watching the game, and you know that Josh Allen has to be perfect, he knows he has to be perfect. So if he looks, he's laying in bed at night and he's sitting there and he's like, well, no Dalton Kincaid, no Curtis Samuel. I'm going to have Terrell Shavers out there, Keon Coleman, who can't separate, and, Khalil Shakir, who I think is special after the catch. And I still think I want to see them involved more. I think mentally that is a challenge. And I think that's something Josh took for granted with Stephon Diggs, and he might now be realizing. But I think that it's like the mental part of it for Josh, I think, is the biggest hurdle he has to take. And we've seen it. You said it, like 0 overtime wins. A lot of times where he's had the ability to win those big games and he hasn't. I think it all takes a toll, man. And I think that's why it's like, it all comes back to, like, for me personally, is just the scars that this regime has had. And that's why I think a change does make sense if they can't figure it out. Yeah. And again, I still think they do, but what's going to happen when the games matter? That's the
that's why I think this might be the year that McDermott finally might go if they have a playoff failure. Like, they need to get to the AFC Championship.
They do.
I think it's time to move on. But
yeah,
I guess the thing I struggle with the playoff scars is when you've had the ball 2 straight years with a chance to win it. Like, you had opportunities. Like,
I know, but he's paid $60 million. I
know, but the part I struggle, and not to rehash the past, the year where he gets hit in the elbow by Chris Jones, and he has Shakir in the end zone. He had Diggs on second down for like a nice 7-yard gain.
He did. And
if he just made the easy throw, I know Shakir would have been wide open, and that's a touchdown, and like you can't assume like other things in the game. But like Kansas City was moving the ball at will on the Bills defense during that game. I trust Kansas City would have tied the game up or won it at the end of regulation.
Well, that was what Ajay Klein was a starting linebacker, right?
Yes. So realistically, like the play was to throw it to, like, they should have gotten it to Diggs, and they were getting small chunks, and they would have killed enough clock. And like that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. Like in that moment, he wanted to make the big play, but the right play, based on the situation, because he did get tapped, would have been getting it to Diggs and continuing on. Then last year, like, granted, like Steve Spagnuolo is a genius, like he's a defensive guru, but you're at 4th and 5, and
they had the Bills offense, whether you blame Brady for not scheming it up right, whether you blame Josh for not reading it, like they were blown off the ball. Like the play was dead upon arrival. And I guess my stuff is this.
My only rebuttal for last year to this is that was an offense who didn't score 30 points at all until they played the Bills and only scored 30
and
points.
I agree. I'm more on the defense, but like here's the thing, like you gotta make plays in those moments.
Well, you do, yeah. And I mean, yeah, and that's what if you're a kid,
he's had no help
growing up.
He's had no help.
But he hasn't, and that's why I make that comment about Kansas City, because they got blown out, and we know they got blown out in the championship. They weren't a great offense up to the point last year. But when you're a kid wanting to play quarterback, if that's your dream, like you're wanting to be an NFL quarterback, your dream is like, I want to throw the winning touchdown at the end of a playoff game, right? Like it feels like all that childlike energy we love from Josh is also a hindrance to what Josh Allen.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, 100%. Yes. That's my point, though. And it's like Bills fans.
I don't know how you get out of that. I'm with you.
Like that's my issue. Going back to the puking thing, I don't think the puking before the game is a big.
You really?
Deal. No.
This is Bunt After Dark now.
Yeah, it's all coming out about Josh Allen right now.
No,
dude. He's been holding this in for like 3 years.
It's the bigger thing. Like the actual puking part, like who fucking cares? Like you get anxious, like you got that build up, like you let it out, like that helps get you moving on. That's fine. It's the concern that in the big moments, you sometimes see the uncharacteristic decision making that holds back the offense when they need him to be at his finest. And if, say, he's at 95%, and normally he's 100, or maybe he's feeling like 105%, like he's slightly too energized. When you are a quarterback in the NFL, that slight extra bit of adrenaline you have can be the difference between hitting a guy on a pass or being off the mark, hitting them on stride, not being on stride, diagnosing a blitz, not diagnosing the blitz. And I have my concerns with Josh that in those moments, he is not processing at the level he needs to in order to take the team where it needs to be. And when your talent around you is not to the level where they can help win you a game by themselves, that means you have to do more of it on you, which means you have to. He
knows this.
No, I understand that, but this is the part where I don't think he processes it at the right level. Now, like we can joke about Gabe Davis and like how he's a joke.
Yeah, I'd take Gabe over.
No, but like let's be real. When Josh had Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, he led them on 2 touchdown drives, 2 minutes left in the 13 seconds game. So that was a moment in time. What did Josh Allen do a lot in that 13 seconds game? I know we're going back. There was a lot of big runs and big moments. It was like he wasn't afraid. Like he was.
I've tried to block out everything about that game,
but it was probably the best last 10 minutes of a game like Josh Allen's ever played, playing with confidence, doing everything right. And like, let's be real. At that moment in time, it was Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, and Stephon Diggs was getting locked up. He didn't do anything in that game. So it was literally the guy that we all make jokes about who went off for over 200 plus yards and 4 touchdowns. Are we saying all of the receivers on the Bills right now are worse than Gabe Davis? Like, is Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, like Josh Palmer, are they all worse than Gabe Davis? So, like, I guess this is where my problem is. We had, like I said, like a lot of times, like Josh hasn't elevated some of the current group, but we have seen Josh Allen elevate players. So at some point in time, he's either going to need to elevate some of these players or some things are going to change because, like, let's be real, the defense is not going to get magically better. And we can go in circles about it as long as we want, but something needs to be handled. And you're right, AJ. Like, he realizes that he has to be perfect. But what concerns me today, it's not even like the receivers not getting open. It's that the first drive of the game, granted on the script, they were flawless. They moved the ball at will. They scored an easy touchdown. The second drive of the game, Dawson Knox is wide open. The defender gets a lucky hand on it, which forces incompletion. And then on third down, Josh Allen rolls out to his right and makes an incredible throw to Shakir, who just barely taps out of bounds. And then on the third series, I think it was Josh Palmer gets open, and then he gets hurt. and then things kind of went to shit from there. What concerns me is this. They were moving the ball perfectly early. And the only thing that changed on offense between that point and the end of the game was one player getting hurt. Now, I know McGovern got hurt and he came back in, but if we're being honest with each other, the only thing that changed between early on and late was that Josh Palmer left the game. My concern is this. Elijah Moore had 60 catches for nearly 600 yards with the Browns last year, and he had 59 catches the year before. How come Elijah Moore convinced some Bills fans that he could be a 1,000-yard receiver, but in Buffalo, when he is asked to step up to the challenge, when guys are out in front of him, he didn't get one normal reception, I think, the entire game. So are you telling me that Elijah Moore either just got lucky with his numbers the last 2 years, or is he truly horrible? Is it Joe Brady not scheming Elijah Moore open? Is it Elijah Moore not getting open? Or is it Josh Allen not having any trust in Elijah Moore? Number two, if guys like Dawson Knox were getting open earlier, why wasn't he getting open later? Dawson Knox had a touchdown early in the game. Dawson Knox got open on the second drive of the game. So there were guys early in this game that were getting open. We know Keon Coleman's not getting separation. So my concern is this. Either one injury to your wide receiver 3 was enough to destroy the Bills' entire game plan, or the Falcons adjusted to what the Bills were doing, started bringing more pressure because they didn't trust the Bills' pass game, and the Bills had no answers to that. To my response is, when you have a running back averaging 5.1 yards per carry, why are you taking that said running back out on 3rd and 1 and doing end arounds to Elijah Moore? Why on 4th and 2 do you have Josh Allen rolling out to his left and then doing backhand shovel passes for 10 yards down the field to a running back and Ty Johnson? In that moment,
design that way.
Josh Allen,
Yeah, I think Josh chose that.
And let's be real. That's Josh wanting to make a cool-looking play. That's him choosing a cool-looking play over doing smart football. And it cost the team in a huge moment. And I don't want to harp on individual plays because he does way more good than bad. But his final QBR today was 18.6. So here's the thing. There was several instances in this game where the Bills got either too cute or they got too stupid. They had one thing that was working throughout. James Cook had 17 carries for, I think, 87 yards, 5.1 yards a carry. Why are you taking him out of the game on 3rd and 1? And you know what?
And he should never have less than 20 carries at this point.
Stop taking your fucking number 1 running back out on 3rd and 1. Number 2, stop relying on Ty Johnson, Ray Davis in those moments too. I know Ray Davis had a touchdown. Congratulations on his first relevant play of the season. Number 3, 3rd and 1. Fucking just quarterback sneak it. Because you know what the Eagles do? They QB sneak it, and then they
4 times in a row. They did it from the 4-yard line 4 times.
Are we afraid to QB sneak now that Kansas City shut us down a few times?
Right, man. That's what I said.
It's so stupid. And some of this is Joe Brady. It's not even Josh Allen. But at the end of the day, they come up with a plan together. And if Josh knows that his receivers suck, then Josh needs to be more vocal to Joe Brady and be like, guys, these guys can't do anything. We need to adjust things. The Bills the last 5 games are throwing for around 200 yards per game.
Well, Sean McDermott, on the lack of downfield passing versus the Falcons tonight, we need to spend a lot of time figuring out what's going on and fixing it. So you would imagine that they're going to do something.
My answer would be this. I think you're onto something when it comes to scheming passing games. I think the biggest, if you want to have hope as a Bills fan that this gets turned around, the hope is that Joe Brady has been so focused on scheming the run game that he hasn't put enough focus into scheming up the pass game. And I know this goes counter of everything I was saying earlier where I said run, and run again. The hope is that Brady uses these 2 weeks to figure out the passing game. Because here's the thing. I don't think it's all the receivers. I think it's just as much scheme related in the pass game.
But Mike, what you were saying earlier, I think that they realized how they had to turn Josh into a game manager and go into this heavy run. I think what they have done now is they completely have overcorrected to that.
They've
And
destroyed
there
the
has-
passing game.
They,
Yeah.
there is no more. You destroyed your complementary football. Now you're no longer
Correct.
complementary football. You don't have a passing game to complement your run game. So
Did we
now
just
you
do
have to
epiphany?
reel it back in.
Did we just reach an epiphany on the show? It took us.
I think we did.
Alex,
An hour
I'm so
50.
sorry. Like, I know you didn't plan on doing an hour and 50-minute show, and
No, he knew.
No, I didn't care.
He knew we'd be going
I
long.
knew.
But
Well, when Jake texted me, he said, "I think Bunt's gonna come on." I said, "Okay." He said, "AJ's coming on too," and I was like, "This is gonna be long." I was like, so,
Mo,
to be fair,
let's-
like, you got almost 5,000 people.
I
today.
think what Bunt,
We
just your
did.
whole point.
Thank you for
and
everybody who
you guys got to it at the end. What you were saying, I think it is completely a Joe Brady problem. Honestly, I think he's way too fucking cute all the time, and I think as much as anything else is like this first 6 games with Ken Dorsey, and then until shit turned bad, is that Josh was making him look good. And this because that's what Josh can do when he's playing at this like high level that we know he can play at, is he can make all this shit look amazing. And that's Joe Brady's just probably not that really good of a coordinator, and he can't do anything with these guys.
I think that's a little too far. I think Brady is a good coordinator. I think it's a different problem.
When's he been the most successful?
No,
When he
no,
had
no,
Jamar
no,
Chase,
no,
Joe
no, this-
Burrow,
this
and
is what I'm
T.
saying.
Higgins. When he was
I-
the most successful he ever was when he was on the most loaded college football team ever. Then he went to the NFL, was a fucking bum.
I understand.
Came to the Bills, was an okay quarterback coach, and then had Josh Allen had MVP season, and James
Alex,
Cook had 15 touchdowns.
I
Oh my God,
understand-
he's so fucking good. No, he's a fucking bum.
I understand what you're saying, Alex. I understand what you're saying. The problem is there's data that goes against that.
What? No, don't give me bullshit analytics.
No.
Here we go. Let's go.
No,
Yeah.
Alex, no offense. Like, this is the simplest data. Like, this is not like advanced metrics. This is the simplest thing. When you check out points per game per season, you can see what the average NFL team scores. And the Bills have had Josh Allen since when? 2018. And in 2019, 2020, 2021 is one of the highest scoring eras in the NFL. So everybody across the NFL was scoring more points. Teams across the league were throwing it downfield. It was more explosive passing, more explosive plays, higher touchdown levels than ever like before. During those years, the Bills scored a lot of points. But yet when they now point per game, like the last couple of years, now it's back up this year. But the last couple of years, points per game were down about 2 points a game on average compared to some of those earlier years. Yet during Joe Brady's lone full season as the Bills offensive coordinator, they scored more points per game than they did in any of the other years that Josh Allen was quarterback, while throwing the ball basically 160 less times than one of his peak seasons, and relying on the run than more than ever before. So, to basic terms, their percentage of points per game, their points per game was at the highest they've ever had. And their percentage above the rest of the league was at the highest it's ever been during the Josh Allen era. So it's kind of hard to criticize offensive coordinator for being a Josh Allen merchant when Josh Allen alone had the most productive season of his career, and the Bills had their most efficient season of the entire Josh Allen era. This is where I agree with you on the passing side, but this is the reason why I disagree with you. The Bills' conclusion when they got Joe Brady, like we said, was more complimentary football. Basically, their conclusion inside the locker room was that Josh Allen's turnovers and interceptions were costing them more games than it was winning them. So their takeaway was, if we throw the ball less times per game and we cut down our deep passing a little bit and we cut down our interceptions, we're going to win more games because we're going to win the turnover differential. During the next 25 games, the Bills didn't lose the turnover differential once, which is maybe it might be the longest streak in NFL history, to be honest with you. That's a season and a half worth of games in a row where they didn't lose a turnover battle. Josh Allen reduced his turnovers in a third of what they had. Their running game had their best season since the LaShawn McCoy years. And the Bills went 13-3. And if you count the 5-game winning streak to end 2023, the Bills had a stretch where they won 18 of 21 regular season games. They had a stretch where they scored 30 plus points, the highest percentage in team history. They had their best running single season touchdown mark in team history. They had a quarterback win an MVP for the first time in team history. The problem is like what Jake said. They went a little bit too far in the other direction where they have become so run dependent, now more so because they need to. but they thought we don't need to spend money on high-end receivers. So they got guys that are intermediate, middle of the pack guys like Palmer and Samuel. What the Bills really need is they need that blue chip receiver, preferably like a first-round pick, high first-round pick, or a free agent or a trade to take the offense back to the next level. But this is what, and this is point will be done in a second. Brady's thought process was if teams are going to be defending Josh Allen and they're going to be trying to just stop our explosive downfield passing and our passing to the intermediate, because that's what they did mostly with Diggs and Gabe Davis, 15-yard chunks, 15-yard chunks, 15-yard chunks. The Bills were kings of the 3-play, 85-yard, 1 minute, 37 second drive. That's what the Bills did.
Yeah.
Now what do? They go on 11-play, 72-yard, 5-minute, 47-second drive. And what have they done late in games since Joe Brady took over? They've been able to milk clock in 4-minute situations because they know how they have that ability to run and wear you down. It's an offensive line philosophy. So they basically looked at how defenses were playing them, and they just take what they get. The problem is now defenses after a year and a half are like, fuck, why are we just letting you guys run for 5 yards a carry against us? Like, this is fucking crazy. Because what happens is the Bills get 2nd and 5. Then they get 3rd and 2. And then they can run the Josh. They can pass with Josh. They can hand off with Cook. They can do whatever they want. And it basically becomes impossible to stop. So now the counter is teams are like, okay, pass it against us.
Yep.
And the Bills, stupidly, were stubborn enough to not come up with that answer of what if teams start making us adjust what we're doing in that regard. And right now, the Patriots and now the Falcons to an extent, even New Orleans a little bit, the Bills don't have that adjustment. So what they're going to have to do now is figure out how are we going to scheme Palmer open more? How are we going to scheme like Dalton Kincaid open more and Shakir open more? And once they come up with those answers, because they will eventually come up with some answers, teams are then going to have to play them back a little bit more. And then the Bills will go back to the run game. But this is why it happened. This is why the Bills every year get off to a hot start, fade in October, and then bounce back.
Let me read that.
Teams, the Bills have the answers early in the year. Teams adjust to them, and then the Bills adjust back. And then normally the Bills' second adjustment is the adjustment that gets them the answer to get them back to what they originally intended on doing at the beginning of the season, but it also gives them the answer to what teams adjusted to the middle of the season. So they have the two answers that they need. It's almost like you keep doing what you're doing to figure out how teams are going to defend it. And then once you figure out what 90% of teams are going to do against you, you're no longer defendable. And that's why they've ended
until you face Kansas City in the playoffs.
Except for Kansas City in the playoffs, yeah. Like, think about it. Outside of the year where they played the Jets in 2019, and outside of last year where they played the Patriots and they benched their guys the last week of the season, the Bills have had at least a 4-game winning streak to close the season every single year between 2020 and 2023. This is routine for them. This like history repeating itself once again. If they lose against Carolina, everything is like throw in the burner. It's over.
So that's what I'll leave us off here. Go ahead, Mo.
I said they're going to get Rico Dowdle.
They might get Rico Dowdle, but our friend Aaron Quinn at Cover One posted this a little bit ago, and it is to the trends of the season. 2020, 4-0 start, drop back-to-back games against the Titans and Kansas City, go on 13-3, win the division, losing the AFC Championship. 2021, more of a November slump, but they went 3-4 through October and November, finished the season 11-6, win the division. Start 5-1 in 2022, come out the bye week, win, lost to the Jets, lost to the Vikings in overtime, and then they go on to be 13-3, losing the playoffs that year to Cincinnati. 2023, 4-2 after barely beating the Tyrod Giants. Follow up with 2-4 stretch late October into November, go 11-6, once again win the division, lose to Kansas City. Start 3-0, lose back-to-back games last year, go on to a 13-4 record, lose to Kansas City. So I get it's what they do, but then if that's the trend, then the trend is that they're going to lose in the playoffs again because teams save some shit for what they see during the year too for them. So I'll leave you with good and bad at the end there. There's reasons to be encouraged and also
they're gonna
mortified.
Go 12-5, 13-4.
My
And then
12
lose
and 5
to Kansas
prediction
City.
feels better now
I don't
than
know.
what it
I
did a
don't
couple
know.
weeks ago.
I don't know. It might be
Lose to
might
Denver
be,
this year or something. Bo Nix.
might be 10 and 7.
I feel like they need that though. Like it almost feels like
Maybe that's what they do need. Josh Allen
Yeah.
needs like the chip on his shoulder,
Yeah.
come in as a wild card on the road. No home games, no games in Buffalo at all. Like no fans.
They win 3 on the road to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Maybe that's
Well,
it.
and you know what? This is the thing. We just saw this happen this past weekend, and this is going way back though. We were talking about with like any expectations about McDermott in the playoffs and anything else. Penn State, who just fired their head coach, 12 years, was a college football semifinalist last year, didn't make the national championship, started this year out 3-0, then lost 3 straight games, completely fallen out of the rankings, decided to part ways. Listen, even if they make the playoffs this year, but it's just a rehash, it's like you said, they go 4-2, and then they're gonna, turn everything around. They're gonna be great, and they're gonna make the playoffs. They'll be the 2 seed or whatever. Maybe even still the 1 seed's obviously still in play for them down the line, because who knows if the Colts aren't gonna stay like how well they're playing or anything. And if they just like rehash it, they come back into the playoffs again and they lose, and it doesn't even matter who they lose to. If they lose to Kansas City or whatever, I still think it's reasonable enough that they should part ways. Honestly, you said earlier.
Yeah.
What AJ?
I said this game will be remembered as the game that revisionist history. I'm predicting this game will be remembered as the game that ended the Sean McDermott era if they don't win a Super Bowl.
I think that's the thing. But you said it earlier. Said if they make it to the AFC Championship game, then it's still successful. I think they need to go to the Super Bowl. They need to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, not successful. That'll keep McDermott around.
His job.
Well, either way, I don't think honestly, even, like just because of expectations of what they are in the NFL and like what you think of fan bases and what you have is Josh Allen. We talked about it before, like years like of his peak or like anything in his career. And like the prime time of his career, if you don't like every year, the Super Bowl should be the expectation for you. And if it's going to be 8 years in a row where you can't make it to that expectation, let alone lose that game, then I think it's time to find something else.
I have a move I already have in my head right now that I would fire McDermott and pounce on it, but Bills fans would hate me. So,
are you saying Bill Belichick when he gets bought out?
100%. Best defensive mind in the history of football.
Yeah.
That's what this defense needs. They need somebody that know how to use the parts. Honestly, I don't even care who the offensive coordinator is. Like he could bring in Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator, and whatever. It won't be any worse than what they were today.
Matt Patricia is lighting it up at Ohio State right now. That team is only lighting up 5 points a game right now.
The Bills will never do it. The Bills will never do it. But don't you think? And like a lot of people will say, "Oh, that's a horrible thing. Like it's going to destroy the culture, everything." Bill Belichick. Like, yes, what's happening in North Carolina is a clusterfuck. But we all know that, like, college football is a different animal than what NFL is. College football is who has the more talented team. Like, on a game-by-game basis, normally the more talented team wins 90% of the time, unless you're Penn State in a game against Northwestern or UCLA. But I'm sorry, Alex. I know you're a Penn State fan.
It's okay. Listen, Jerry Neuheisel might be the greatest offensive coordinator in the history of college football.
He has flow. That's what you need. A Belichick-Neuheisel combo might be the way to do it.
Maybe.
But here's the thing. AJ will say my leash on Sean McDermott has been way longer than 90% of the fan base. Like I believe in culture. I believe in development. I believe in doing things a certain way. And I think even though the playoff results have been disappointing, there's a reason why this team is consistently good in the regular season. And for a long time, even though Josh Allen was the big reason why, there was other contributors. They were consistently good defensively. That has fallen apart. I think you get an elite mind like Bill Belichick, you're telling Josh Allen one thing. And it's the message I think he needs to hear right now when we hear some of the comments and some of these answers at press conferences. You're telling Josh Allen anything short of a Super Bowl the next 2 years is unacceptable. Because Belichick's like 74 years, going to be like 74 years old next year. You bring a guy like that in, he's not coaching the Bills like the remainder of Josh Allen's career. He's coming to coach like 1 or 2 years. And you're saying the window is now. I think that's what Josh Allen needs in a head coach. They need to stop talking like, oh, we're going to get your receivers that are going to be good in 3 years. Or like, oh, like Cole Bishop's going to be starting safety. I need Bill Belichick out there being like, Cole Bishop, you fucking suck. Like, you're out. Like, we're getting somebody. I'm going to get some no-namer off the street that nobody's ever heard of that's played 6 games in the UFL and I'm going to make him the starting safety. And you know what? He's going to ball because my scheme is just better than what anybody else has. Every time Belichick was in big games, he had an answer. Belichick's the reason the Bills didn't win Super Bowl 25. His defense with the Giants came up big, and then the Giants' ball control on offense, they kept the ball out of the Bills' hands. Belichick, everybody wants to talk about Brady, and I love Brady's mentality. They won a Super Bowl against the Rams with Goff, like 13-3. Like, they've won Super Bowls where the Brady struggled to score 20 points. So I know you guys have to go. AJ looks like he's about to sleep on air. So.
No, but you're right. Four of those 6 Super Bowls are Belichick defenses more than anything else. They're not Tom Brady is lighting it up in the world. Let's fire McDermott. Bring in Belichick tomorrow and save our season. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love the
honestly. I want a Sean McVay type. I want an offensive-minded coach more than anything. But whatever.
Give Sean McVay $20 million a year to be the offensive coordinator. Bill Belichick can be the head coach, and then and get Patricia from Ohio State. And you know what? Buy it. Buy a championship. I don't care. Trade for AJ Brown. I don't know.
I like it. I like it. I think we solved it. I think we solved a lot tonight.
Yeah, we solved a lot. Yeah.
We solved a lot tonight. But no, this was guys, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you guys for being here for this. This is one of the longest episodes we've ever done on this show, but I think we all need this was not just a Falcons post game. This was like we all have been seeing a lot of issues with this team over this whole span and it's the last couple years, and we needed to delve into it and just be honest about it because there's more. There have been issues lying in the wait that could come to roost this year, and we'll see. I mean, maybe they'll just go 15-2 the rest of the way though, or end up.
We never even mentioned Greg Rousseau's block field goal. That was a great play. We never even mentioned.
I know they wasted a block field goal tonight and a hook and ladder play tonight.
You know what's last thing when he blocked it, the back of my head was like, they better return this for a touchdown because this may be the only way they tie the game up.
Nope, instead they go 3 and out.
Yeah.
Or I don't even know if it was 3 and out, but
I think it was 3 and out. I think they completely wasted.
I think they did go 3 and out.
They wasted it. They wasted all the defensive stops in the second half.
The Shaq Thompson almost interception that would have been a pick six.
I'll say this. Terrell Bernard picks that off and runs it back.
He doesn't read it though.
Hey, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
That's great.
All right. Thank you all for joining. Shout out to our sponsor, Picasso's Pizza. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Alex. This is Jake Micah. Good night. Go Bills. Even